He got the ball. Good afternoon, Tottenham fans all across the world, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur for Game Day Live as Tottenham travel to the South Coast, take on Brighton at the Amex Stadium and look to make it 6 wins on the bounce heading into the international break. Great time to be alive and great time to be a Spurs fan, and hopefully we can get that win today and keep the momentum going. But as always, we like to check in with the good people on the panel and see how they are, and you guys out there, so let us know how you are in the comments, how you're excited ahead of today's game. So, Jack, how are you today, my man?
Feeling good, Dave. Always good to be alive. Not always great to be a Spurs fan, but definitely right now it's great to be a Spurs fan. So let's hope we continue on this winning form, continue on this rich vein of winning form under Ange Postecoglou, his 50th game in charge, if I'm led to believe as well. So hopefully he can end it, or not end it, but continue it in sweet style with this 6th win in a row, which would be tons of fun going into international break. And the Seagulls battle the high line, the hipster Fabian Hertzler. Should be a fun game.
I think it's going to be an absolute cracking game. I think it could be one of the most exciting of the weekend. That's what people are anticipating anyway. But we will get into Postecoglou's 50th game in charge. I would say to Johnny and Rob from last week, we will be talking about Ange Postecoglou and his 50th game in charge. If you don't like that, close your ears for that section. But we'll head down to Drew. How are you, Drew?
I'm doing very well, thank you, sir. Looking forward to today's game. Looking forward to chatting with you guys. Yeah, looks like history is on our side. We've got twice as many wins as them, so all time. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a great game.
No, I think it's going to be an absolute Sunday special, and great to have you back. I think you smashed it out of the park last week. I think a lot of people agree. And what I like about it is, you won't let me away with just my opinion. If you got something completely different, you'll make sure you get it in, and I absolutely love that. So big up, Drew, and everyone show him the love in the comments. And then, of course, the returning Jose, who always smashes these out of the park. Big up, Jose. How are you, sir?
Right, first and foremost, before I say this, I'm going to start as we mean to go on, people in the chat. There's 120 of you in the chat, and it doesn't represent the like. Hit that like button. Know the rules. Do it on your way in. Don't leave it to mid-show, and don't leave it to the end of the show. Smash them likes from the off, because these guys bring you content all the time. So come on, people, get with the rules and start smashing that like button.
Appreciate that.
Apart from that, I'm the same Jose that I am every week. Don't care if we play Derby or Juventus. I always look forward to my team playing, and I always look forward to what my team can bring up on the pitch, and I always look forward to hoping that my team are going to go out and get me the solid 3 points week in, week out. So for me, yeah, it's Sunday. It's game day. We're here. Let's do it.
I absolutely love game day. I get excited on the Friday, the build up to it. And then, come Sunday, I'm almost drained before the game starts. I've almost got all my energy out, but hopefully I have plenty left for today's game. But guys, you know the rules. We're going to welcome you in. Going to give you everything you need to know heading into this game, team news-wise. And then we're going to have some great conversations about our defensive vulnerabilities, apparently. When you look at the amount of goals we concede in the league, it's one of the fewest. So we'll have a conversation around that. We'll have a conversation around our midfield tree right now. It seems to be the perfect sort of blend, the perfect combination, just like coffee and milk. So we'll have a conversation about that. And as always, guys, feel free to get in questions, comments that you want us to bring up. And if you want to make it stand out and make sure we can't miss it, feel free, to show some support towards the channel and do it through a super chat, which means it gets highlighted and everybody has to take note of the comment if you're that sort of person. So let's start by welcoming some people in. We've got We Are Spurs TV. Good to see you. Says, let's go, Tottenham. We also have Sean Johnston. Jono, today is a massive game. Truly believe our fantastic run will continue this afternoon. Just hope that Ange has the balls to start Mikey Moore instead of Timo Werner. Come on, you Spurs. We will have that conversation as well, but I'm just going to warn you now, if you don't want to see Werner and you feel like you need something, get your beers in the fridge early because he's going to be in the lineup today. Yeah. James Paratrooper says Turbo Timo will score a brace. Come on, you Spurs. Do you know what? I hope he does. I really hope he does, because I get to sing my song that I've been, holding in my locker for quite some time. That makes me quite happy. And I do love to see a player that's under severe pressure and that I don't believe in go and score goals, So hopefully that happens. We've got Terry Betts. As earlier, I predicted a 2-2 draw with Brighton as the game gets closer. I think we might actually win. Big up, Terry. Good to see you as always. We've got Spurs GCTV afternoon. Dave and Jack, it's game day. Let's go. Come on, you Spurs. Good to see you as well. Always in here along with Terry Betts and all the rest that have come before you. Really appreciate that. Daniel Borden says it's game day. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, lads. Good to see you. When I keep seeing people saying it's game day, I keep thinking, where's Mr. Butler? You know?
Yeah.
While I have no contact with him for a while. I haven't been able to get a number to get in contact with him. So if anybody has heard from him or whatever, please let me know. Just let me know he's okay, basically. We've got Wembley 1 afternoon, boys. Another mad roller coaster to come this afternoon, no doubt. Good to see you, Wembley 1. It's going to be a basketball game. Just mad about it, right? Both teams play the high line, so there's going to be like 50% of the pitch, maybe less, where everyone's going to be squeezed into the one section. This ball's just going to be hopping around everywhere. I think that'll happen for the first 10, 15 minutes. I think if you're a betting man, bet for offsides today, bet for cards today. I think that's the route I'd be going down. And goals, actually. Alpesh Patel, afternoon, Jack and Dave. It's match day. Come on, you Spurs. Good to see you. Dark Sung G says, come on, you Spurs. I hope Don and Johnson win us the game today. Well, it's interesting with Brennan Johnson because 3 out of his 5 goals have actually been winners for Tottenham Hotspur, which is very good. You know, this is what we want from our forward players, to step up in the big occasions and help get points on the board. It's something that Son has been fantastic at in years gone by. Even before that, Harry Kane, always scored crucial goals, and that's what Johnson is starting to deliver, and that's all we ask for from our players. And Jesus, I was out for a big 6K walk yesterday, and I think the sweat and the cold is starting to make me a bit sick. But Dark Song G, Dom Solanke also getting into the England squad for the first time since 2017. Some people say that's because Ivan Toney vacated, but Dom Solanke, he scored 21 goals since the start of last season. Only Ollie Watkins with 23 and Cole Palmer at 28 has scored more than him, English players. So he's in there on merit, and hopefully he can score today and hopefully get an opportunity for England over the international break. Displace Harry Kane. That would be some story, wouldn't it, Dark? Big yourself up, my man, and good to see you, sir. We've got Brandon G. Morning, always listening to my morning runs. Really appreciate that. Hopefully my voice isn't off-putting. Morning runs, though, good thing to get into. Good habit, fit and healthy. Fair play to you. What sort of distance are we talking about here? Marathon level or, just an easy breezy 5K? I say easy breezy 5K. I'd struggle, but let me know, my man. We've got the Fresher says, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. And Mr. Paul Connor, I do apologize. I had some stuff going on during the week, like I said to you, but we did miss his birthday. Happy belated birthday to Paul. Everybody in the chat, Paul, and wish him a happy belated birthday. We like to make our own feel special. So please, everybody. I think what's your turn? 21, 22, Paul, I think? Good to see you. You got Danny Coyce. And by the way, hopefully you got spoiled. Nice meal. 1 or 2 nice presents. That would be good. Dan Coyce's game day. Dave and Jack, let's keep the momentum going and be more clinical in front of goal. Come on, you Spurs. Also got some interesting stats around us going forward, which hints to us needing to be more clinical. But in terms of, chances created, shots on target, we're up there with Man City right now. We're the best in the league. So, we're not doing too bad in terms of creativity. I think Kulusevski created 9 chances against Man United last week. The most of any Spurs player since the Premier League started. Look at me reeling off the stats. So I'm all into it today. And we've got Cynical Dad. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. We got Shawnee Maddox 4-0 Spurs win incoming. I really do hope so. Big up Kenneth, Tottenham Hotspur. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. How have you been? I haven't seen you around in a long, long time. How's life treating you, sir? Please let us know. We've also got Chino says, get ready for Timo Werner hat-trick. Look, I hope it happens, I really do. We've got Hug the Love Bear. Great name. Yes, mates. Lots of love from down under, the Love Bear. I think that should be my nickname, or anyone that's single, and out there, that should be what you should call yourself, the Big Love Bear. We've got Phil Coyes. It's game day 4-2 to the mighty Spurs today. This is controversial, but I think Werner will get on the score sheet today if he starts. Confidence is massive for football. A prime example, Johnson, absolutely spot on. And look, Ange came out swinging for Timo Werner, and I think, off the back of it, a lot of people are predicting that Werner's going to repay him today. Let's wait and see if that happens, Phil. We've got Darren Johnson. Morning, chaps. 3-0. Come on, you Spurs. Good to see you. Sue Smith, great to see you. As always, haven't seen you in a while. How are you keeping? We've got Jack Bloom. I think Spurs fans are in pretty good mood today, my man. How are you keeping? We've got DJ AK, big up Dave and Jack and the rest of the Spurs family. Another win on the cards, I think so. Come on. I think we're all hoping for the same, my man. JJJ, good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. Adrian Chi as well, good to see you as always. Shem Tam, great to see you as always as well. Hopefully you're doing well. And good to see you in the building. We've also got John. Going to be a crazy match. Come on, you Spurs. That it is. Ribsy because you're up early or late, depending. Good to see you there, sir. Really appreciate it. DYT2, great to see you as well. Like Farange, big up, my man. Really appreciate that. And how are you keeping, sir? Please let me know. Davey Hall, as always, great to see you. Looper Call as well. Rick in Brighton as well. Great to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. Rick in Brighton today. Did you not put in a comment underneath the pre-match build-up? Rick and Rio, I thought you went back there. Are you at the game today? Let me know, sir. We also have Les Known as well. Hopefully you're keeping well. He says, will the Flying Dutchman score another today? I mean, look, I'm all here for it. I think we've got the best defender in world football, to be brutally honest with you. Big up Kev Williams as well. Great to see you as always. We've got Bill Bebby as well. Rom V, DJ Samuel, good to see you as always. Adrian Brown, Darv Hotspur as well. Great to see you. Vandal Cozy. I'm getting there, guys. Just bear with me. Lazy 8, Harley Taylor, Lee Moody, Michael W, Sobrero. Jesus, guys, you're in your numbers today. Really appreciate the support. We're all eager beavers today. Plus, I've got this from Dark Sun G. I can't wait until Richie and Son returns for West Ham. Come on, you Spurs, Jack. I'll let you take that. I just need to grab a quick drink.
No problem. I would be really delighted to see Richarlison return, because technically that would be potentially the end of seeing Timo Werner, or at least being forced to see Timo Werner, but we have pretty much no option other than him or Mikey Moore. Also, in the case of Richarlison, he does actually help relieve Dominic Solanke, who at some point will need some rest. You know, he has been playing himself into fitness and to match sharpness, but he does need some rest at some stage. And Richarlison provides something pretty similar. He works his tail off, likes to get into defenders' areas, cause them problems, likes to hold up the ball, likes to drop deep in order to do that, and good in the air, just like Dominic Solanke. So they do complement each other. They're good competition for each other. In the case of Sonny, I think it's nice to see that so many people like Brenaldo have stepped up, you know, while Sonny's been out, and hope to see some others step up while he's been out. But yeah, we do need our Sonny back, because when the bigger games come up, especially against teams like West Ham, you do need your best players available. So I am looking forward to seeing the other. We have two Aldos in the team, Bernaldo and Sonaldo. Hopefully to see Sonaldo back in the team. But yeah, in the case of Richie, do you have any hopes that he might actually stay around this summer, Drew, or stay around this season?
Richarlison.
Yeah.
I think so. I think he can play a part. I was slightly concerned that what was going on with him was less about football and more about mental stuff.
Yeah.
But then I saw in the press conference the other day that Ange said something about calf muscle as well. So I don't know, you know, whether it might be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a real hard time pushing anybody out of their position. But the fact that he can come in off the left, and, you know, he's a man that, you know, you can put in the box and aim at. If we can get him back to something like those 12 games last year where he was really fit and firing, he could certainly be a help. And he would be it would be kind of be a load off a couple of the others. Like if he could come in, maybe have a role in 25 games and give us 10, 12 GA, then that kind of lightens the load a little bit for what Timo's lacked so far. And even takes a little bit of the load off of Brennan, you know. I know he's doing really well at the moment, but, you know, every player has, you know, this world-class players continue to throw up numbers. You know, good players just have purple patches. So we'll see which one he ends up being. But yeah, Richarlison, hopefully, fingers crossed, he can come back and play a part.
Do you know what? I really do hope he can, because we're going to need him at some point this season, especially when we get back from this international break. We've got games coming in thick and fast, and the squad is really going to be tested to its limits. So it'll be a really good addition to be able to have him back, but also to be able to give Dom Solanke a bit more of a rest at times as well. You know, he's running his nuts off into the ground, and, you know, that there's only so long you can sustain that before we need to start, you know, managing his minutes. So hopefully he can come back and play a huge part. And Dark Sun G also says, really happy that Son isn't playing for Korea next week. 100%, my man, you know, because I think what I've seen so far is a Son that looks a bit tired. It was the same, you know, a couple of seasons ago when we went out to South Korea on pre-season tour, and in around this time he was a bit tired as well. If you take yourself back, remember he was out of the Conte team for a little while. He was on the bench for a couple of games in around this period, and, you know, as well, I know that Korea do rely on him, but Dark Sung Ji, you've got plenty of other good players that can step up, like Hwang and people like that. You know, we need Son to be fully rested heading into this next period. We've got West Ham, Aston Villa, Man City, teams like that all coming up very quick and fast. And if you add a fully fit raring to go, ready Sonny to what we're already seeing right now, we're going to be an even more scary opposition for people. So I think it's absolutely crucial that he doesn't go away on international duty. Big up Dark Sun G, and really appreciate the support, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well, and your father must be happy. Liverpool top of the league right now. He must be very happy. Big up Dark Sun G. And then we've got this from Kaylee Davies. Says, come on, you Spurs. Far too early in Seattle. Jack, what time is it there in Seattle? What, you 8 hours behind, isn't it? So what time is it?
It's about 6 a.m. For some reason, I feel more tired today, Kaylee, than I have during the 3 a.m. times that I've woken up for these pre-match buildups. Maybe it's just that adrenaline that you wake up, in the middle of the night because your body's just telling you, what the hell are you doing up at this time, and then it sort of kicks in some sort of fight or flight mode. And then I end up being in better form for these pre-match buildups. Whereas around like 5 a.m., it sort of feels like I am waking up for work or something like that. And I am coming out a little bit groggy, but hopefully I survived the pre-match buildup. I think I got some fine panelists around me to do some heavy lifting. We got Drew, we got Jose, we got Dermatron, but hopefully you're not up with me at this time in the day, Kaylee. Hopefully you're up in the UK or someone later. Yeah, maybe if you're up in Seattle as well, Kaylee, would love to meet up with you so we can both crack our heads together, figure out why we're doing this to ourselves, especially with Tottenham Hotspur getting up this early in the morning for it. But big up yourself, and 14 months of support as well. Really appreciate it. Let us know where you're from. If Dave is right that you're also a crazy person in Seattle getting up this early.
No, big up. And if you are in Seattle, I know Jack sometimes, needs someone to go for a drink with after a Spurs defeat or something like that, So not happening too much lately, which is great. But, this is going to be happening sometimes. So you can help them talk it through and, ease the pain a little bit. Big up, Kaylee Davies. Good to see you. But we are going to give everything we need to know, and then we'll welcome the Tron in, and then we will crack on. We've got, of course, we are playing at the Amex Stadium. Kickoff is at 4:30. Dark Sun G, any stats on David Coote? Please let me know. He is the referee for today, and VAR is Paul Tierney as well. If you want to watch the game in the UK, it's on Sky Sports, USA, NBCSN, and Australia is on Optus Sports. Injury news, Richarlison, of course, is out, but is returned to the grass, is out running on the grass, expected to be back after the international break. Udeberg still out, and of course, Son out as well. For Brighton, João Pedro, Van Hecke, O'Reilly, Adingra, March, and Milner as well. I think Van Hecke was a late fitness test, but we'll wait and see what happens there. So that's everything that everybody needs to know. Dermo, nice of you to join us, my man. You're becoming a bit of a diva lately, aren't we? Turning up late and everything else. How are we?
Yeah,
becoming a superstar.
Sorry. Yeah, I am. Well, I am the Dermatron, so I've got to go by a reputation. It precedes me. No, my Mrs. Tron has cousins over from Australia. So we're a busy visiting family this morning. So we've done the Irish thing, left them in the pub, and we've come home. She's come home to relax, and I've come home to talk Spurs. What more can you get for your Sunday? 6 out of 6 coming. I've got seagull pie cooking in the oven, with a bit of mashed potato, peas, and a bit of gravy, lovely jubbly, and a bit of roly-poly pie for afterwards. If Harry Redknapp says it's good for him, then it's good for me. And that is my Sunday.
The RSPCA or the animal rights people are listening. He is joking. Don't take it too seriously. Absolutely love that, Dermot. Big yourself up. But Jack, we'll start with you and work our way around the panel. It will be Postecoglou's 50th game in charge of Spurs already this weekend. What have been the standout moments during his tenure so far, Jack?
I hate to always reference, or everyone references the first.
Or his biggest achievement, do you think, either?
Well, that's what I was trying to think. But what's maybe been his best moment? Probably one of the best moments was the start of the season that he had last year, because at the end of the day, what he kind of needed to do a lot of things, and you don't really envy the situation he found himself in. He had to basically repair a very broken fan base, because in true Antonio Conte style, he leaves the fan base in absolute ruins where everyone hates each other and there's this sort of toxicity around the ground and around the club. He had to basically repair that as soon as possible, Ange Postecoglou. Credit to him. He basically repaired that, it felt like, before we even had played a game. His charisma, just sort of the vibes that he had when he came into the job, kind of the easy nature in which he kind of came across in the press conferences and everything. Yes, he does believe in himself, but he didn't have that sort of vibe that Jose and Conte did, which is like, I'm doing you guys a favor, or like this sort of like, oh, I don't really want to be here type of vibe. I'm just kind of being paid to do a job. He came in here with the right energy and the right mindset. And then he went on a huge, 10-game winning run, or basically, a huge, great start to the season where we were undefeated. And I think that was probably a real, just fun honeymoon period, if you will, and might be one of the best honeymoon periods we've ever had, I think, with a manager to get things started off with. And then probably later on, you could maybe say, I don't know, maybe there were some big wins here and there that might have been some of his best moments, like probably, the Aston Villa win and some others. But I think it's probably more just in general what he's been able to accomplish in a short time. He's gotten rid of some of my least favorite players that have ever played in a Spurs shirt, the Eric Dyers and whatnot of the world. He's brought, a new football that everybody seemed to be wanting, which was on the front foot, attacking, no matter who you come up against, you're going to play your way. You're going to give them everything that you have, and you're also going to try to entertain at the same time. And I think Ange Postecoglou, to a degree, if you were to look at kind of a checklist of things he needed to do, he kind of needed to get a whole new squad basically under his system. He needed to kind of get good vibes back into the Spurs fan base, and he needed to agree to a degree, kind of deliver that, whatever you call it, kind of nostalgia kind of style of play that a lot of older Spurs fans would identify with. The one that is on the front foot, the one that is attacking, is positive, is looking to try to bring a game to the opposition, not cower away or play defensive, pragmatic tactics. And he's achieved a lot of that in a very short time. So I think it's kind of not as much individual moments. It's kind of just general sort of check mark, checklist type things that I think he's done. So credit to him for only 50 games and doing that.
No, 100%, and he's done a lot. I think, because a week sometimes can be a very long time in football. I think people, sort of forget where we were before Postecoglou came in here, exactly what we were looking for, stuff like that. And I think to a large degree, he's come in and delivered exactly what many Spurs fans were asking for. Don't get me wrong, there's been a bit of pain to get there, but that was always going to be the case. But Drew, I mean, Tottenham are enjoying their best winning streak in 3.5 years, having won 5 games on the bounce. We haven't done that since March 2021. Does Postecoglou and the players deserve a lot of credit for turning the situation around, given the pressure that they were under very early on in the season?
I don't think it's necessarily give them credit. I mean, we're expecting them to do what they get paid to do, right? And they get paid very well to do it. So I don't necessarily think it's entirely that. I just think, again, I think I'm probably echoing what I said the other night on a fan show. It's just, I think we're now seeing and reaping the rewards and the benefits of having players who are now starting to understand each other and have relationships on the field. I keep on harping on about the fact that our starting 11 only played 5 or 6 times together last year, and it showed towards the back end of the season. We've started well this season, regardless of a couple of the results. The Leicester game, if we'd have been more clinical, we could have been 2 or 3 up, and we'd have put that to bed before Vardy even got an equaliser. The Arsenal game, I genuinely feel like we were a little unlucky not to get something out of that. And same with the Newcastle game. And I think it just comes down to, just starting to feel, beginning of the season, it was a little bit sloppy. Not everybody had their boots tied right. But I think, we're seeing the team start to gel. I think it's got a lot to do with Ange and the coaching staff. And, just to echo what Jack said, his ability to be able to implement something and for everybody to be on board. So no, I don't necessarily think we should give them extra credit. I just think we should be proud that our team are finally playing like, the 2015-2016 team that I think won 7 in a row. So I don't know, see if we can match those guys.
Do you think that form is here to stay, Drew? Do you think it's here to continue? Because some people might argue that, it could be like last season where we had that 10-game run and it all fell apart. Does it? What feels different this time around?
Dude, I mean, I think every team, barring Manchester City, or even though I think they're still a little bit short in a couple of departments, I think every team are a couple of injuries away from disaster, or a couple of injuries away from, going on a bad run. So I think a little bit of luck has got to do with it. I think game management, not burning the players out. I think it's really good that we were able to give the kids a lot of minutes in Europe and rest some of the more of the first 11 team. I think it's a balancing act, man. I think if everybody keeps believing in the system like Ange believes in the system, and he hasn't wavered at all, you got to give him credit because people have asked him numerous times, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and he's never strayed away from his convictions. So I can only see us going from strength to strength. I can only see us getting better. But by the same token, if three of them pull up with hamstrings today and we're out for 3 to 4 months, then we might have a problem, and it might be a case of having to batten down the hatches, take a couple of L's and a couple of uppercuts, in which case the whole fan base goes into uproar and it's Ange out again. So I don't know. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think a tragedy would knock us off course at the moment.
I think, you know what? I think we're better equipped to deal with the likes of injuries than that this year. I think, especially now that some of the fringe players are starting to get minutes under their belt and all, they should come in, with that experience and with minutes in their leg rather than coming in cold like they have done in years gone by because they weren't trusted in cup games and stuff like that, or they were getting knocked out at the first opportunity, so weren't getting them running games. So, and plus, what I do think is, as well, I see. One thing against Man United last week, it was Bruno Fernandes' challenge on Maddison. Johnson and a few players were straight away in the referee's ear. I cannot remember the last time I've seen that from a Tottenham squad. It's one thing that has annoyed me for quite some time. Tottenham players just sort of accepting the decision and rolling over. They put the pressure on the referee to look at it, and make the call, and fair play to them, which to me shows the togetherness in the dressing room where they're fighting for one another. Whereas in years gone by, it's almost like they were throwing one another under the bus and weren't really fighting for each other. And that can go a long way, people in the dressing room all pulling in the same direction and looking to protect each other and fight for each other. So, I think that is probably the difference for me, I think, this time round. Plus they've all had a year together. So, that'll stand through the tough times. I think, they'll be able to work it out a lot better. Just quickly, before we get on to Jose, we have this from what's his name? Boinkers. This is Eric Dyer's least favorite player. Steady on, lad. Remember the 90s and the 90s. Geez, do you know what? Look, I remember them very, very well, my man. I think, Sergei Rebrov, people like that. But look, to be honest with you, Eric Dyer is one of them for me. I think he is one of my most hated players to ever put on the Tottenham jersey. It's just the way it is for me. I just, that's just my opinions. I know people don't agree with it. I'm not going to sit here and argue with people over that guy anyway. He's gone. But I do sort of agree with Jack on that, to be fair. Jose, Postecoglou's 50th game in charge today. How do you think it's gone so far? And what's his biggest achievement at Tottenham Hotspur? Getting Brennan Johnson firing, maybe Timo Werner firing?
You've got a lot of what Jack has said stole me thunder, because for me, the first thing he did, whether people like it or not, and whether people are prepared to admit it or not, he united the club at a stage when there were so many fractions in the club. So when he came along, and from the very first interview he did, he united a lot of the fans, brought them back this way, back together. From wherever they were splintered, they all came back towards the middle together. He was a dream for the boardroom. The boardroom stumbled on an absolute dream because the way he deals with the media and that, the board don't have to feel worried about every time he's in front of a camera. He's brought players on a journey with him as well. When I say he's united the club, he's united the club from the groundsman to the tea lady to the people in the administration office. Everybody's been united and galvanized after what had happened under Conte and after Conte's words in the March of that year. What has he done? He's overseen something that we've known for about 6 years needed to happen, and that is a complete pause and refresh again, because Pochettino spoke about it when he was our gaffer, and and in not so many words, Mourinho probably felt that, and so did Conte, and so did Nuno. Probably felt that that they still had the same players more or less that Pochettino had, and we needed to refresh the squad, and he's overseen that as well. He's brought players in. A lot of people are saying, well, why did you buy him, and why did you buy him? Well, It doesn't happen overnight. The fruits of our labour are beginning to bear fruit at the moment. In all aspects, which I'm sure you're going to talk about today, in all aspects, whether you're attacking, whether you're looking at defending, whether you're looking at game management, whether you're looking at substitutions, whether you're looking at youngsters. There's a whole raft of things that he's introduced and brought in. And in all honesty, for me as well, if I look, and I keep hampering on about this, and I said this in the last few pump ups that we've done, for me, although we were unbeaten for the first 10 games last season, where we are now and the football that we're playing now is far better. And I can see an identity now far better this season. And we've lost twice already. But I still see a far better identity now than what I saw for the first 10 games last season. So he's done a whole matter of things at the club. And his biggest achievement for me is the way that he manages whether people like it or not, but the way he manages the players, it does include them all, because there were some players that clearly weren't for Ange going forward, and he's been able to manage them in the sense that he got the best out of them when he had to use them. They've now moved on, and I've got no doubts that we will refresh again next summer. And there's players that are probably in and around the squad now, whether they're playing or on the fringe, that will not be here next season. But he's having to manage them to make sure that they graft and put a shift in when they're needed to the club now. So he's done a lot of things, whether people want to admit it or not, because some people may have agendas and some people may have thoughts of, I sit this side, I sit that side, I sit here, there. To me, if you look at it objectively, what he's done since he's come in, he's done a really, really impressive job, in my opinion.
No, look, I think he's done. I think he's done a great job. And what I'm watching at Tottenham, it's taken a bit longer to unfold, but it's exactly more or less what he was sort of trying to do, what he done at Celtic, and it was always going to take a little bit longer coming to the Premier League. But the biggest thing for me is when you lose a player as influential at a club like we did Harry Kane, to come in and not sit there bemoan his luck, use it as an excuse for all the questions that were thrown at him, last season in terms of creativity, goal scoring, etc., and just continue to sit there and say, look, I'm going to find a solution and stuff like that. I think it is probably his biggest feat, actually, because coming in, getting the fan base on side, some would argue, if you say the right things, it was probably easy from where we were when Conte walked out of this football club. Also, the way he works with Daniel Levy, he doesn't need hundreds of millions of pounds. He's not screaming for it like Conte and Jose was. He's happy, to build the squad up with 40, 50 million sort of pound players and work with them. I think he's done an absolute fantastic job in terms of, bridging that gap between the chairman and what he really wants, not throwing the transfer windows under the bus and stuff like that, continue sitting there and saying all the right things. And also the way he handles the press, I absolutely love it when he gets cheeky with them, when he snaps back at them a little bit, has a bit of fun with them as well. I think he's done absolutely brilliant work at Tottenham Hotspur, and hopefully it is here to continue, because at the end of the day, you do need results to justify everything, and they're starting to come now, and hopefully they continue. Big up Spurs 89. He's going to be in the away end today, my man. Look, I was up there a couple of years ago. Harry Kane scored that goal where he kicked the Coke bottle in the celebration. Kulusevski also scored the first that night. It was a cold night, but it was a great trip, my man. So I know you're definitely going to enjoy that. Do you know what was bonkers, though? It was freezing cold. I'm an Irishman. I'm used to it. I was standing in the stands with a big puffy jacket, with the fur on the hood and everything else. And you had guys standing there in T-shirts. It was absolutely madness. But the Spurs fans, they really do enjoy an away day. So hopefully you enjoy yourself down there. And then also Soren as well. Good to see you. He's got us up in the tractor. He's out there plowing the fields, fertilizing them, feeding the nation, basically, while also taking on board the Spurs content. Really miss you, Soren. Hopefully next time you won't be on the fields and you will be back here to join us. Big yourself up, my man, and hopefully you are keeping well. And last but not least, Dermo, I'm not going to bring the comment up because I don't think it's 100% fair. I think he's trying to have a laugh with you more so, Dermo. But, some people think that you're not fully behind Ange Postecoglou. Time for you to set the record straight, Dermo. How well do you think he's done in 50 games?
So the first bit, that's the biggest load of BS I've ever heard. I've been more Ange than anyone else has. And I know what he's done up at Celtic. And when he came to Spurs, I was the most, I think, apart from Ozzy Paul and me and Dave, I was the next one down that was so excited because I knew what he can do. I haven't seen this team spirit within a Spurs squad since the 1980s, since the Keith Birkinshaw years, where all of that 80s, early 80s side, Steve Perriman, Graham Roberts, Tony Galvin, Ozzy Ardiles, Ricky Villa, all of them, all would fight for one another. If you started on one, you're starting on all of us. And I haven't seen that spirit, maybe a little bit on the Poch, but not like I'm seeing now than I've seen since the 80s side. Ange Postecoglou, I always say it, he's the reincarnation of our three best managers we've ever had: Arthur Rowe, Bill Nick, and Keith Birkinshaw. And it was Puskas that taught Arthur Rowe the push and run, and then Puskas also taught Ange, because he was a coach when Ange was a player in Australia. And it's come around full circle, and we're now getting our modern day version of the 50-51 side. And he will bring us success. Ange Postecoglou is a man that doesn't leave. He doesn't ask for much. He doesn't rock the boat. He gets on what he's given with, but he turns good players into brilliant players. And that's what he's doing at Tottenham. And look, he doesn't need hundreds of millions of pounds like a Conte or a Mourinho. He can do it on the shoestring and build successful winning sides. And we are seeing that now. And we're seeing that because Ange Postecoglou is the man that will take us to the promised land. No doubt about that. He's a winner. He's a winner, and he will win. And I know people have doubted him, and I said in my post-match yesterday, all of them should apologise, get down on their feet and apologise, give the man respect. They should give him respect because he's a winner, and he will take us to glory. Ange Postecoglou is here to stay, and he's here to stay for a while. And I think the best game for me during that 10 run last season was the one when we beat Man United 2-1. I think for me, last weekend was the best, was Ange ball in full flow when we beat them 3-0. But I think at the start of his reign, when we beat Man United 2-1, for me, I said to myself after that day, that's it. This is what I want to see. And now we are seeing it. He had his harsh lessons with the team last season, but we had not a great start, but we haven't been outplayed by anyone. And I agree with him on that. We have not been outplayed by anyone. We just haven't took our chances. Now we're taking our chances. You watch us go. Ange all the way, baby. Come on. I am so excited.
There you are, Shotskis. Let me know what you think of what Dermot has to say there. He's setting the record straight, but you know, in fairness to you know, Dermot, he did watch a lot of Ange at Celtic, and he did have conversations with me saying, you know, Dave, you know, I think you're right. You know, I think he could be a good appointment for Tottenham and stuff like that. So, in fairness, you know, look, anyway, we're going to move on. We'll go on to Dark Song G here. Big up Dark Song G. He says, David Coote is okay. The two losses we had within 4 seasons is 3-2 defeat to Southampton, which was our own fault. We were 2-0 up, I think, going into 80 minutes. And the 6-1 loss to Newcastle, which again was our own fault. The rest are draws or wins. Come on, you Spurs, 6-2 win. Do you know what? They did beat us 4-2 at their place last season in this very fixture. So, you know, I think today, if we can go and win, I think, again, it'll show, you know, a remarkable turnaround. It's not going to be an easy game. You know, Brighton, despite them giving up a lot of chances last week to Chelsea, and we'll get into it later on, was that just Cole Palmer's brilliance, or, you know, was there something that Chelsea exploited that, you know, that got Cole Palmer into a lot of these positions? So, but they do create a lot of chances. You know, they do create a hell of a lot of chances, in fairness to Brian. So it's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. But look, all we ask for is the referee just to be fair. You know, David Coote, it seems like I can't blame him for them 2 defeats underneath him, to be brutally honest. They were all our own doing. So, do you know what? Hopefully, you know, I stumbled upon a referee I do like and respect today. Dark Song G.
You could argue that the Pop Matasar moment for the Southampton game wasn't a penalty, the 3-2 and the 3-2 win for Southampton. Do you remember that with Pop Matasar?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely wasn't a penalty.
Actually,
but
so I do hate David Coote, actually. Good memory, Jack. I do hate David Coote, actually. Great memory there to destroy my papa. Also, anything on Paul Tierney in the VAR room, Dark Song G, I'd be very, very grateful. But good to see you in the house, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Just take a couple more comments here from the chat, and then we are going to crack on. This comment cracked me up. Says, I can't wait to hear those fans singing Tottenham get battered, watching Ansball put those Seagulls to the sword. And I absolutely love it when I hear it and see it, because it's a chant every club has sang at us for, 3 to 4 years with great glee and joy in their faces, and all in unison. Even people that don't agree with singing songs to rival fans all stood up and joined in. It was a piss take. And now we've took it and we've embraced it. So when we win it, we now turn it on them, and it's absolutely fantastic to see. I love that. So big up, absolute great comment. We've got this from Francis Reynolds. We are definitely going in the right direction. Lots to be positive about. We aren't on the same level as the top three yet, but you can tell we are chipping away at the gap for sure. Absolutely great comment. Someone wants a wave, Dermo. Give them a wave, lad. Big up. Then we've got 2J in the house. You're forgetting about the Poch days whenever we scored a goal, all of our players had gangster handshakes with each other. That was the team spirit. Do you know what? Yeah, it was. They all had different, Dele Alli had a different one with Son, and Kane had a different one with Son and all. It was absolutely madness. And you could tell they were all enjoying themselves. It was one big, happy friendship group singing Kumbaya together. And, that's once you have harmony in the dressing room, it can take you a long way, and hopefully we're starting to stumble upon the same now, 2J. Big yourself up, sir. We've got dry roasted peanut. The Europa League is ours. I've already taken the week off to celebrate. Absolutely love that. Premeditating. Like I said, you do have to manifest it for sure. Jack, he says, Jack, we drew 3-3 away. That was a different ref. That. Okay, fair enough. Big up, Dark. So, Jesus, on that 4-2 fixture, didn't we use Davies and Royale at centre-back? I think you're probably right. I think we probably did. I remember Stupian scored an absolute screamer. I was livid about it because he was just left there allowed to shoot. No one really went out to close it down and stuff. But look, I like our back line now. I think we've got a good back line, and we're actually going to get into having a conversation. I'm just going to bypass the rest of the silly questions and go straight into this, because I do think it's a bit of a fascinating sort of conversation to have right now. But look, thank God we're not. In fairness to Davies, actually, I've given him a lot of stick in years gone by, and I think rightly so for some of the excuses and the performances I've seen from him. But this season, he has been actually very reliable and very good. And that Coventry game, which was a key turning point, if he didn't make that block when he did, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about the run that we're on right now, quite frankly. So I've got to give the guy a lot of credit in that regard, to be fair. And long may it continue. Doesn't seem to have the distractions of other people around him anymore. So, hopefully it serves well for him. Big up, Dark Song G. Hopefully you're keeping well, like I said. And then greetings, a regular gamer, and Liam as well. Great to see you guys in the chat. But guys, I do want to kick on. I might come back to some questions later if we have time. But Tottenham, there has been a lot of talk about Tottenham being vulnerable defensively, but they've only conceded 5 goals in the Premier League, with their defensive record second only to Liverpool, who right now currently boast the best defensive record. But before the Arsenal game yesterday, they've also only conceded 5, and they're sort of perceived to be one of the meanest defenses in the league to get given praise for it. So there's sort of contrasting narratives going around. I'm curious about the Tottenham fans' perspective. So everybody watching, please let me know your thoughts on this. How do Tottenham fans perceive the team's defensive performance? Do you side with the criticism, or do you place more trust in the stats, which are quite impressive, despite the narrative that are maybe spoken about Spurs? And we'll start with you on this one, Jack.
I've never really been that critical of the defending or the defensive style, really, of Ange.
But you've seen a lot of the criticism, though, right?
I know, I certainly have, but yeah. I think we even did a video though recently, Dave, where we were talking about the risk and reward, of this style, and the risk and reward is, you get technically more opportunities in front of goal, but you might give up more chances on your end to the opposition. But for the most part, I don't think Spurs really give away that many dangerous opportunities, despite how high of a line we play and despite how progressive and on the front foot it is. We do have a lot of control in games, and that control just comes from kind of sheer domination. There are just so many times when we pretty much are suffocating the opponent inside their own half, where they're just finding it impossible to get out. They have to resort to long balls over the top and see if they can get lucky. And, we've done a much better job, it feels like, this season of dealing with some of those long balls over the top and some of those let's say almost escape routes that they come up with, to try to get away from the pressure inside their own half. And I think for the most part, Spurs have defended pretty well. Even all the goals that we've conceded have either pretty much been really individual errors, not as much really down to the system either, from Leicester City to even in the Newcastle game. I'd argue that the Harvey Barnes goal was not really as much of a system thing, just more of a really good finish, plus, you know, kind of switching off from a throw in. And then even you look at the Arsenal game, it's from a set piece once again to a team that does score the most set pieces in pretty much European football, it feels like at this point in time. So what are you really going to do except maybe just be a bit stronger there? And you could argue that it was maybe more in Cudi Romero in that game. And for the most part, Spurs have just been pretty strong at the back. We've relied on good moments from Vicario, but I wouldn't say we've had to rely on him that much, you know, to pull us out of things or to save us from any potential scary moments or anything like that. It's been very well controlled by Spurs and Ange Postecoglou, and that is really thanks to the style of play. And I think we're really doing a better job of sort of keeping our foot really on the opposition, where we don't allow them back into the game. We don't really give them that sense of belief, that sense of hope that they are going to maybe get something out of this. We do really keep the pressure on, and it seems like it's really working out for us. And you compare it to other teams, like even the team we're about to come up against, Brighton, who conceded 4 goals inside like 30 minutes, and they were just getting absolutely run around in that game. You don't really see them get called out for it. You don't see other teams get called out for it. Even Aston Villa, I'd argue, are a team that don't really get in trouble as much, you know, with the media for some of the high lines that they play in certain situations that seem like they're kind of asking for a bit of trouble. I think Spurs have defended very, very well this season. It's not something I've ever really been that critical of. The one thing I've only been critical of is us in the final third. I think it's, you know, something we've improved on definitely recently, but that's been my only issue with this team is we're just not clinical enough in games. And then we do leave ourselves open to eventually kind of concede. But really defensively, we've been pretty resolute, and it's thanks to the style of play. We just absolutely suffocate teams, and we make it near impossible for them to even want to play football anymore. It doesn't look fun to play Tottenham Hotspur. It looks like it's a really difficult team to try to play against because you have to really have your wits about you.
No, 100%. And look, I'll give my reasons why I think, you know, defensively we're absolutely, you know, a lot more solid, because I do think Jack is right. I do think when you look back, especially this season anyway, a lot of the goals have been down to more individual errors rather than it being system related or Tottenham being defensively naive, which I definitely agree with. But Drew, you know, does Tottenham's attacking style and focus on possession probably contribute to the perception that we are more vulnerable defensively because of our style of
I
play?
think it's just how. I mean, I think it's having the right pieces in place now. I think Dominic Solanke allows us to press further forward because he's just he's just an engine. I think Kulu coming inside has meant that it gives Johnson more space on the outside. I think the wingers are far more spread. So whereas last year, I think if you look at us, you know, we were maybe 6 to 8 yards away from each other as a team. Now we're 10, 12 yards away from each other, and we're spreading the play out a lot more than we were. The one thing I will say about the defense as well is that I think a lot of it comes down to coaching. I mean, again, you know, last year it was a team that hadn't played a lot together, and now they've had as much of last season as they had playing together. They've played, you know, as many minutes as they can together this season. None of them have really had injuries. It's like you say, the couple of lapses in concentration from Cudi Romero have arguably probably cost us at least 4 points. And I think the reason you're seeing maybe the step up in his game at the moment is because I think he's fully aware of that. I mean, he lost Vardy in the Leicester game when he really shouldn't have, because he came over to cover for Porro, which he didn't really need to do. And then they got into a bit of a 2 and 8, and then all of a sudden, you know, Vardy's at the back post. And then I think the Arsenal game, I think he was at fault for that as well, because I think he just wasn't switched on. So I think if they can really knuckle down and get those sorts of silly mistakes out of their system, I think the system itself allows for them to be able to be press resistant because they're good enough ball players. They can play a decent pass. And worst case scenario, you know, you've got the man that covers half the earth in Mickey van der Ven, who seems to be able to clean up things that can't be cleaned up usually. I think CSI Crime Scene should start calling Mickey van der Ven, because I think he could probably clean them up a little quicker than they could. Do you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. We're very lucky to have him. But yeah, it comes a lot down to coaching, relationships, and the team actually knowing what the team's supposed to be doing.
You're on mute, Dave.
Sorry, Jose, Drew mentions there about coaching. You know, we did hire a couple of new coaches, you know, Montgomery and who's the other guy? I can't remember the other guy now. Do you think that has a massive part to play in what you're seeing with us defensively? People are saying, look, he's, you know, Montgomery's helping train them in set pieces and stuff like that, you know, or do you think it's down? Some people are saying it's down to players getting more used to the system, being longer in this system. What do you put it down to?
To be honest, I think it's just an evolution. It's just been an evolution since the start of last season on a system of play, a style of play, tactics, everything. It's just an evolution, and it doesn't coaches and the players that you've got, the learning the systems and that. I just think it's been an evolution of time that's got us here. However, I did touch on earlier to say that what Postecoglou's done really well in his first 50 games is manage a squad of players and to keep everyone involved, even players that he knows are not going to be with him for the long run, and he's managed to do it. Now, obviously, we've got rid of players by the summer transfer window. We've got rid of a load of players, and in the winter transfer window. So this first season, we got rid of a load of players, and now we've got a settled squad that is more an Ange squad than what he inherited. So therefore, the people he's now got and the new players he's brought in, because it's not just about the 4 defenders and the goalkeeper, but yeah, to straight away Solanke from the press, because the defending starts from the front. Solanke straight away. Sonny's upped his defensive game, pressing from the front as well. You know, so it's everyone pitching and mucking in to help out. You've got Madison, who's a very clever footballer, very, very clever footballer, who, and I said this on a few of my shows, Madison and Kulusevski in central midfield on paper shouldn't work, but it does. It works because they're very, very good technical footballers and they've got good footballing IQ, and it works. So there's a whole multitude of reasons why we're defending better. The other thing I was going to say is I'm going to give him his props. I'm going to give props to Vicario. Vicario came out in the summer. He admitted to having an issue with his goalkeeping, and he said that he was going to go and address it. And to me and to everyone and to most of the people that watch Tottenham play, you're a bit like that. You're biting your fingernails every time the ball comes in the box because you don't know what you're going to get. But now this season, obviously in pre-season, he's worked on it. He's still working on it at the moment to become a better goalkeeper in other departments apart from his shot stopping. And he's coming out now and he's commanding his box. I've seen him now go out and catch balls 15 yards off his line. Not just cemented with cement boots on his line where he can't move. He's actually coming out, and that breeds confidence in the rest of the players. And he's commanding his area far more. He's coming out and punching the ball. And if he ain't punching the ball, he's taking players out of the game, not illegally. I'm going to say, but he's taking players, putting players off, because players are going to think, well, if the goalkeeper's going to stand on his line, well, we're going to attack it. If the goalkeeper's going to come off his line, shit, then, you know, we've got to do something different now. So if the goalkeeper's done well, he's gone away and he's worked really hard on his game. And as for the regular 4 that we got playing at the back, the more and more they play with each other, the better they're going to get. But then also as well, I think Bentancur again, playing in front of them 2 centre-halves, Bentancur has been the player that we know Bentancur is, you know, and he's played really, really well. He's been immense in that position as well. So it's a whole multitude of things. It's a load of variables, but a lot of it is him having people understanding it. Yeah, the coaches could have played a part last season and this season, and played a part last season this season. But it's the understanding that the players have got and bringing in new players as well. You know, I mean, because the kids, we watched the kids in pre-season. The kids get it. The kids understand it. You watched them play the other night. You know, Gray comes in, plays centre back. Gray comes in, plays left back, and he played really well because they're understanding that there's more. You know, so it's a whole multitude of things. I can't pinpoint one thing. There's a lot of different variables that have got us to where we are today. Long may it continue.
No, 100%. I agree with you. I think there's multiple areas, but for me, I'm going to pinpoint one that I think has contributed massively to it. Along with a lot of the stuff that you mentioned there as well, Jose. But Dermo, Hug the Love Bear, great name, says, I think the high line equates in people's mind to being defensively vulnerable. We may look vulnerable, but we usually sweep up and control. Our pressure gives us so much more control in the game. Do you think, it is the high line that, it's perceived that we're defensively naive? Because we do have one of the best defensive records in the Premier League, despite everyone banging on about it.
We do have one of the best. The stats show we do. And I think if you're going to start anywhere, you start with a strong defense. So that's where that's where the foundations are laid. You start with the goalkeeper in your back four. And I think Tottenham have done that. And I think the coaches have to take an awful lot of credit here. The new coaches Ange brought in, he saw it wasn't right. He's brought new people in, and they've brought a different perspective on how we play. And he's added a different dimension to Ange ball. And I think Jose said an awful lot what I was going to say. So, but I do believe that, the back line should get more credit than they do. And I think it's a media thing. I really do think that Tottenham don't get enough credit in the media. We went away and we got a clean sheet and battered Man United at Man United. We didn't get hardly any mention in the media. It was all about Man United. And we put on a defensive display. And it's only mistakes that have cost us the season. Romero really should not have started the season. Rudu should have come in. Romero should have been given a few games to get in after the Copa America and that. But I think the biggest credit has to go to the players, to the coaches, and to Ange Postecoglou. Because he's demanded perfection. And that's what he's getting now. He's demanded clean sheets. And Vicario, he's bulked up. He's now commanding his area, which is great. The defenders trust Vicario. Vicario trusts what's in front of him. And then we're doing it as a team. We're not doing it as individual. And it balls back again. Everyone trusts each other. We're a family. And that's what it is. It's all done as one family. And I think the media should give us a lot more credit than they do. And I think it's very harsh because we do have one of the best defensive records in the Premier League. Stats don't lie. Stats do not lie. And the media do not give us enough credit as they do. Last week was a disgrace. Because if that was any other team that went up and battered Man United 3-0, they'd be getting high praise all over the place. Because it's Tottenham going up there. Oh, it's only Tottenham. We won't talk about them. We'll talk about Man United. That run by Van der Ven for 2 games in a row doesn't get talked about. One of the best, he's better than, somebody said it, I agree. He's the best defender in the Premier League. Him and Romero have the best partnership in the Premier League. Van der Ven is our Van Dijk. That's how rarely I write him. He reminds me very much back in the day of Franz Beckenbauer, when Beckenbauer was in his prime. Van der Ven, and that's how good he is, and that's how rarely I hide Van der Ven. He's our Franz Beckenbauer, and anyone's old enough to agree with who's seen Franz Beckenbauer and how he played. And Lothar Matthäus did it later in Germany in the late 80s and early 90s, played that sweeper system, did that long busting runs. It's the same thing. We should get more credit, and the media don't give us credit, and it's actually wrong that the media don't give us enough credit as they do, like they do other teams.
From the media side, considering, it goes against everything that a lot of these people in the media right now would have been told growing up from a coach's perspective and stuff like that. The high line, going and pressing people, it goes completely against the way they grew up and the way football was presented to them in terms of defensive structure and stuff. So I can understand it. But I don't mind us actually not getting the praise after United game, because before they know it, come Christmas, we'll be 4 or 5 points off top. And they'll be sitting there going, oh, Spurs. And then they'll have to do a deep dive. And by then, we're already made headway. For me, I don't want the pressure on us too early, so I'm okay with that. But to be brutally honest, for me, the biggest thing for me that I think has contributed to our defensive solidity, and no doubt Vicario being one of the best goalkeepers in world football, I said it in my predicted lineup, the guy, when there's an easy opportunity for a team to score, you got a player bearing down 1-on-1. I actually expected Vicario to come out the better of it, which is a strange feeling towards a goalkeeper. The fact that he can continue to pick that same back four, which he didn't have the luxury of last season for large parts, so far this season, is also contributing to it, because the more you play together, the more you understand everybody's game, etc. You become more of a unit. But mostly for me, I think the biggest area that has contributed us to being a lot more defensive solid is actually having the right balance in the midfield, which this probably segues us, nicely into the next section. I think having Bentancur in that number 6 is absolutely crucial. And I'm a big fan of Basuma. I think there's a good player in there. I think there's a hell of a better player in there if you just focused on football and stopped that partying lifestyle and shit like that. But Bentancur, and the reason why I say he's crucial to it, and the rest of the midfield, which I'll get on to now, is because on the ball, Bentancur doesn't have to get on the ball and dribble to create that passing angle, which Basuma has to, because he doesn't have that passing range. He has to get on the ball, dribble, and almost draw players in, which is taking a huge risk. And while he's doing that, he's also faking in that position. And with Basuma on the end of a lot of the good work he does, his passes are often under hit or misdirected, and he gives away possessions, which mean they get on the ball, they come straight back at us, and he's out of position, which then leaves our defense vulnerable. With Bentancur, because he doesn't need to do that, he gets on the ball, it's one touch, he plays through the lines into midfield, into the forward areas, and he barely loses the ball, which means he's not vacating that position. So if the ball does get turned on us, he's sitting back there. And lastly, Basuma last year, all 3 of our midfielders were up in the final third on the edge of the box trying to contribute to trying to break down the opposition. Because our forward line is starting to do that now, and because you've added another number 10 in there, which is bringing the best out of the forward line, only 2 of them need to go and contribute, which means Bentancur can sit back and provide that cover most of the game for Romero and Van de Ven. At times he can sit in front of them or sit between them, a bit like the old Pochettino system, which then, when Miami used to do it, Vertonghen used to come out and cover the left-hand side, and Alderweireld used to come out and cover anything that came down the right-hand side, which then covers your fullbacks when they go forward. It allows you to do that. So I think, for me, that has been the biggest change to our defensive solidity in terms of being opened up from open play, is that midfield balance. Because with Kulusevski and Maddison now, because the 2 of them are creating, bringing Kulusevski in frees up Maddison. It means he's not as heavily man-marked. There's many people getting onto him, because last season he was our only creative outlet. People pinpointed that and went after him very, very quickly. Now you've got Kulu. It frees up more space for Maddison, but with Kulu as well, he's also bringing people in, which then frees up Johnson just to make them overlap and runs and for him to slide them in. So I think the midfield tree has actually been key to this system. I think it's the gel to it. I think it brings the cohesion that we need in terms of supporting the front line, but also defensively. And last thing, the one thing I banged on about for most of last season was that press went after them first 10 games, and it was crucial to what we were doing on that 10-game run. That press, getting up there, turning the ball over in their half, that went for large parts of last season. This year it's back, and it's back with intensity. Sometimes we've got 2 players chasing down the ball. Thank you very much, and we're in on goal. But mainly, I think that midfield balance, getting that selection right, is the biggest contributor to us, because anyone that has played the game, anyone that's been in and around the game, or has followed the game for years, knows if that midfield's not right, you're going to have effects at both ends of the pitch. That midfield is the most key, crucial position on the football pitch. That blend in that midfield, it's got to be right, because they have to do both sides of the game. It's absolutely crucial. We've got a couple of comments here, and then we will crack on. We've got this from Dark Sun Jesus. Paul Tierney was the ref for the 2 Liverpool away games. Big up, Dark Sun G. Look, he's in the VAR room today, so hopefully, he doesn't try and help Brighton today with any decisions. Hopefully, they all go our way. But big up, Dark Sun G, my man. Really appreciate that comment. The 2 Liverpool away games. What ones are they? Because the only ones
last year we just got thumped by Liverpool. I just don't really remember the referee playing too much of a part. But then there was that year where Diogo Jota got away with kicking Skip in the head and didn't even get a yellow card for it. I don't remember, but it was a shocking decision. But that's the one I can remember. The last year's away game, I just remember getting beat really badly. I don't remember there being a bad referee.
I tend to go into hiding when we lose to Liverpool and forget about the losses, to be brutally honest.
Wasn't it that game where we went 3 up? Well, we went 3 down really quickly and then managed to claw. Yeah. Didn't we claw like 1 or 2 back? But by that time it was already.
Got goal as well, didn't we? Yeah. Interesting. Well, big up that, Sun G. We've got this from Chang. He says, keep the faith, everyone. Like if you rate the panel. Big up, Chang. Really appreciate the support, my man. Much love. I believe you're on Jose's fan show, earlier on this morning. Big yourself up, my man, and hopefully you're keeping well, sir. And then we've got this from Radfar31 Spurs. Excluding Davies, Timo, do we now have a stronger bench? I think so. I was only saying this to somebody on the phone the other day. It could have been my father, actually. Maybe it wasn't. But, you know, oh, it was actually Hotspur Hippie last night, actually. He gave me a late phone call. You know, in years gone by, or last year especially, you're turning to the bench. You know, one week he could call on Skip, the next week he could call on someone else. But realistically, it was a lottery pick. It didn't matter who he could call on. You know, they could let him down at any given moment. And he didn't trust the bench. That's why, you know, it's probably a large narrative around why won't he make substitutions? Because being brutally honest, if you were all in his shoes, you wouldn't know what subs to make either with some of the players we had coming off the bench. Yeah. But this year, you know, he's got a lot of players that I would say are technically efficient. You know, a lot of them have attributes that suit his system. So there's no excuse for him not to turn to the bench this year. I think he'll be a lot more comfortable in turning to that bench. And also, the more minutes these guys take in the Europa League and the Cups and keep producing results and performances, the more quicker he will be to turn to the bench as well. So it goes hand in hand, Faz Radfar. I definitely think we do. I think we've got a lot more options all across the field to pick off. And under, you know, for a long time, let's not forget, our bench was full of a lot of under-21 players for a long, long time. Under Conte, you know, I think we had mainly defenders on the bench to come off and pick from. We didn't really have any attacking players. Right now, we've got defenders, fullbacks, midfielders, attacking players, you know, everyone to sort of call off if we need. We've got a solution for every problem. So I do think it is better this time around, Faz Radfar, for sure. But guys, you heard my thoughts on the midfield, and that I think it's key to everything we're doing. I also think it's key to the creativity going forward. You know, outside of Man City, we created the most chances, you know, going forward. And I think we've also got more shots on target than Man City, which shows the next step we need to take is become more clinical, become killers. And I think that's naturally, as Jose likes to say, the next evolution, you know, for Tottenham Hotspur going forward. But I do think that midfield tree is the absolute key to everything we're doing. And I want you guys all to have your say on it as well. So we'll start with you, Jack. You know, the bent between Bentancur and Basuma, and maybe, you know, has Postecoglou now found the right sort of midfield?
I think he has. I think maybe if Bentancur gives him that solidity and that, you know, composure that's required in the number 6 role, because you don't need to take as many risks. I think if you're playing a bit deeper, you want to be a bit more sure on the ball. You also need to be that safety valve in any situation where you have to win the ball in midfield, kind of pick up any 50-50 and, you know what to do with it once you do win that 50-50. I think Bentancur did a really good job of that in the Manchester United game. And then if you go into kind of the other areas of the midfield, you'd probably say that he's found a solution in a very Ange Postecoglou style, which is just go even more attacking, go for 2 number 10s instead of going for a number 8 and a number 10.
That's
and I think that's worked out for him, really. And unless I'm kind of going too far here with maybe you were more speaking about the number 6, but I think everything is sort of balanced itself out a little bit, where instead of going for like a number 8, a number 10, and a number 6, it feels like we've just gone for a more conservative deep lying midfielder, one that isn't really allowed or isn't, you know, really supposed to venture that far forward. It's almost supposed to basically just sit in front of the 2 center backs, kind of protect them, also be able to recycle possession with them whenever required. And I think that's given us a bit more balance with Van de Ven and Romero, but then you have 2 players that can then occupy the midfielders of the opposition, who caused them a lot of problems in Madison, as well as Kulusevski, and also just the way that they complement each other, because it feels like if one team tries to take out Madison, if they try to take him out of the game, then you leave Kulusevski open, and you leave Kulusevski open to try to cause damage and, you know, create opportunities. And you can't really take them both out of the game. You kind of have to pick one or the other. And I think this has actually given Spurs a whole new dynamic where it's not 3 different players kind of playing 3 different roles. We have one guy doing a very specific role in Bentancur, and then we have Madison and Kulusevski, who kind of do very similar things, take up very similar areas of the pitch. And so it makes it really difficult to pick up which one you want to try to take out of the game. And I think that's given Postecoglou a whole new dynamic. And the way that we want to play anyways, we want to have very technical players on the ball who can create chances and score goals. Madison and Kulusevski are more likely to do that than having like a Pop Matasar there, or I don't know, I guess previous renditions would have been like a Skip or someone playing the number 8 role or something like that. And it just didn't really work out for us, and it wasn't probably what we really needed in this Postecoglou system. So it's probably just a balancing act of making Bentancur a bit more conservative, making that deep lying playmaker more conservative, but then giving Kulusevski and Madison more license, more freedom to try to create chances and venture further forward. And maybe that's kind of been the solution. He's gone a bit more attacking in true Ange style, but he's also maybe tightened things up a bit more with the defensive midfielder.
And you know what? I absolutely love that. I love when you say it as well. You know, everyone's asking him to go more conservative, more defensive, and he goes, "You know what I'll do? I'll stick another number 10 in there. I'll go completely against it." And look how mad it's worked out. I mean, Drew Zilla, you know, same question to you. Maybe I'll focus this one a bit more on maybe Kulusevski. How key has he been coming into that midfield in terms of unlocking us going forward? You know, I think it was you that mentioned about him, or was it maybe Jose unlocking, you know, Johnson a little bit down that right hand side? Because for me, when he now gets the ball, he's sucking players in because they know how good he is with his feet and how strong he is. It actually frees. And if you look at a lot of the chances Johnson has got lately, all he's got to do is make the run off Kulu, well timed. Yep. Kulu plays it and gets his first touch right. He's in on goal. How good is Kulu and how crucial has he been to this midfield tree?
Yeah, I think he's an awesome player. I think he got a bit of a rough ride. I mean, he can play right wing to a degree, but we were all getting very frustrated with the fact that he was always having to peel back and go onto his left foot. And I think now, my personal opinion is that he's not really. He could play 6, 8. If we're playing the number game, he could play a 6, he could play an 8, and he could play a 10. I think the way that Ange's system works, I think in my mind, you've got Bentancur as the 6, and you've basically got a couple of kind of 8-10 hybrids that kind of share that space between them. And, you know, one knows when to go, one knows when to sort of stop back a little bit and give the option. But yeah, the way that Kulu is able to manipulate the play and manipulate his body and go on the inside, it does help. Like you say, it draws the extra defender out. And I think it is the reason that Johnson's been given a lot more space. And I think it also allows, there's been a couple of times where Kulu has taken so many people out that Johnson has actually been able to make his way in. And he's actually been in the number 9 spot a couple of times. So I think it really helps to have, you know, obviously intelligent footballers. And I think Maddison and Kulu are starting to work out how to play with each other in that hybrid sort of 8-10 system. I think my concern is Bentancur is so good at playing that role, and we've seen Bissouma be so erratic at playing that role, because I think Bissouma, I think Bissouma should be the cover for Kulusevski more so than the cover for Bentancur, because I think Bissouma is an 8. I think he's a ball carrier. He doesn't have that big long passing range, but you know, when he's not turning into players and he's got his head screwed on, he does very, very good things, and he's able to get away from somebody and put a pass between the line. My concern is if we lose Bentancur, I don't see a replacement in our squad unless people are telling me that Archie Gray is already ready to play the 6. I've not seen him do it yet, but I've been told he's a very good 6, so potentially he could do it. But that's my main concern, because the only other option, and I don't know how good an option it is, somebody mentioned it the other day, and I haven't been able to really stop thinking about it. The likening Moussa Dembele to Kulusevski. And I know Kulusevski plays further forward, but the way that guy can get around people, hold people off, just keep hold of the ball, he has got a Moussa Dembele-esque style to the way he gets between the ball and the man. And I don't know, man. I think the older that he gets, it might be something that he could potentially drop back and do. If he had to do it for a couple of games, I think he could. But yeah, my concern is losing Bentancur, because as good as the other 2 have been, Bentancur is the reason that those 2 have been allowed to flourish going forward.
No, 100%. I definitely agree. And I think the right word for Bissouma is erratic. And look, don't get me wrong. It's not like he goes out there and he doesn't try, you know, but I see it an awful lot. Many people get frustrated. He does a lot of good work, but then after good work, he almost takes too much out of it and gives away the ball, you know, an awful lot. Whereas Bentancur is just a lot more sort of secure. Interesting there, chat. Please let us know what you think on Drew's comparisons of Kulusevski to Moussa Dembele. I sort of understand the point, you know, in terms of the ball carrying ability, the way he can get on the ball and drive forward. You've seen it against Man United. You know, I thought I was watching, you know, the latest war movie. There was bodies just flying everywhere behind Kulusevski while he's just running through. I thought I was watching a Hollywood cinematic feature film. It was absolutely unbelievable. And that's things I used to see of Moussa Dembele. You know, I used to absolutely laugh when he used to get on the ball. I used to just drive through midfield. And you see players coming in with great intent to try and move him off the ball. They just bounce off him, you know. When you're Kulusevski and you're a big guy, you've got that big frame. You know, you're almost like an immovable object once you get going. Once you build up a head of steam, very, very hard to knock off the ball. So I do understand it. What I would say is I do think Kulusevski's probably better in the final third than Moussa Dembele.
Absolutely.
Moussa Dembele used to just get up there and go, here you are, guys, dude, I've done everything else. Do the rest of the work. I think what was Pochettino famously said about him, if I got him when he was younger, he'd be a Ballon d'Or winner about Moussa Dembele. Who knows? Maybe Ange could be the guy to unlock that for Kulusevski for sure. Absolutely love that, Drew. Pete, a lot of people in the chat agreeing with you as well, actually.
Big up,
Jose,
chat. Smash the like.
This?
Smash the like for Kulusevski.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Yeah, exactly. And hopefully, do you know what? I'd love him to score again today. That finish against Man United was, chef's kiss. It was exquisite. You know, most people would sort of smash that. He just lets it come towards his foot and a little flick. You know, it was absolutely beautiful. Not easy to do, by the way, either. But Jose, we were sort of chatting before the pre-match, before we went live, about the midfield. You said you've also had some good things to say on it, so take it away, my man.
Yeah, a bit. Right, we know where our back five are going to be going forward. We've known it for a while now, and whether it's by design or whether it has been by design or whether it's we stumbled across it. We've got the three midfielders that actually look good. I am not going to call midfielders by numbers anymore, right? At the end of the day, I used to like it when we had midfielders and you say, yeah, he'll hold or he's going to attack and he's a box-to-box and stuff like that. I'm not going to call it numbers anymore. All I'm going to say is that Kulu is the perfect foil sitting in front of our two centre-halves like it has been. He's picking up the ball and with Bentancur, I mean. And with Bentancur is a ball carrier, and you can see that for his country and for Tottenham in previous years. He's a ball carrier, but he's been asked to play in this role. He's played in this role. He destroys the play, gets the ball, and he releases the ball, and we're on transition early. And that's exactly what we've been doing, and we've looked so much better for it. You said, Dave, earlier as well, because a lot of it you lot have said, but you said earlier as well about the dilly and dallying that Bissouma has to do if he plays that position where he hasn't got the first pass in him, and what he needs to do, he has to maneuver the ball or maneuver the play a bit more before he can release the ball. And by then, you could be 3 seconds too late. So, at the end of the day, having Bentancur doing that and then releasing the players for the attack has been absolutely brilliant. For me, quite simply, like I said, on paper, Kulu and Madders, people said that ain't going to work on paper, but it hasn't worked. And for me, it's quite clear to me at the moment, at this present moment in time of the season. Last season, when you said what's worked and what's changed in that, is I can see a path now where last season we were shoehorning people into positions and we were putting round pegs into square holes. This year, to me, straight away, the replacement for Bentancur is Bissouma, and the replacement for Kulu and Madders is Bergvall and Papsar. Just you can see straight away who the options are. If you've got your starting three up front, right, are all fit. Your starting three are the likelihood is going to be Son, Solanke, and Johnson, and then you can see that your replacements are then going to be Richie, Lancashire, Mikey Moore, Timo Werner. So you can see last year we were shoehorning people. We kept shoehorning Kulu out to the right. So this year there's a path. We can see it. We can all see it. If our 11 stay fit, we know where our first 11 are going to be. And then if we need to replace them, we know what players are going to be put into what positions. So for me, yeah, the midfield works. It's a pity that I've had to go nearly last because you lot have covered absolutely everything you're going to talk about. There's not much you can lace up.
I'll come to you first. You know what? You make a good point. I'll come to you and Dermo first on some of the questions
Yeah,
next.
because you can't really lace
Yeah.
up the boots. They're already laced. What do you want to do? You can't sprinkle any more stardust on his boots. You've already done it, you guys.
No, I
Sorry.
appreciate that. I'm sorry about that. No, you're right. I'll come to you first. The next couple of questions. Dermo, anything else you want to add on the midfield, my man?
Look, I think the midfield is something we've been looking for to improve for the last couple of seasons. And I think the likes of Bentancur has brought a bit of stability to that midfield. And I think also Maddison, also Basuma and Papa Sarr have brought something different. Each of them bring something different to that midfield. They all bring their own qualities. They all bring their own bit of style to it. And I think the way Ange's got it now, with the three in there, with one playing, Maddison doing his, and I think Maddison's playing more of a free role. They're more of a number 10. I think he's more given license to roam. You've got Bentancur or Basuma, or just sitting in front of that back four, just tightening everything up. And then you've got Kulu in that pivot, where Kulu he's the engine. So he runs the middle of that midfield. And I think what we're seeing now is three players that are linked together, three players that know what each other are going to do before they get the ball. So Maddison knows where he's going to be if Kulu has the ball. You know, Bentancur or Basuma know where the other two players are going to be. And it's the partnerships they're building up. Basuma and Papa Sarr, great partnership. It's all about partnerships and trusting each other. And it's like the defense. The defense will know what they're going to do. The midfield 3 or 4, they must do a lot of training just on their own together of working in positions and where we're going to put the ball. If I put the ball here, I want you to be there. And it's the same with the front three. If Van de Ven's running down the pitch, Johnson, I want you at the far post. You know Johnson's going to be there. So it's all about looking ahead. So I do really feel that the midfield, we've got the best midfield, I think, since Modric, since Harry Redknapp's time, since Modric was at the club, and players like that. And I really do feel that we're our engine room is now the best. It's like our engine room, I describe it as like a Ferrari. We've got a Rolls Royce defense, we've got a Ferrari engine, and we've got a Red Bull, for the F1 thing, a Red Bull car up front. So you've got three sort of really powerful sort of engines in their own departments, and it's brilliant. And I think our midfield is probably one of the best midfields in the Premier League at the moment.
You're on mute, Dave.
I was going to say, sorry, long may it continue as well, because, you know, look, Papa Sarr coming in for Kulusevski, I think you get a complete different sort of game from Papa Sarr in terms of turning ball over. And I think maybe against some of the better teams like Man City and all, there's probably a case for it. But he doesn't offer you what a Kulu does, you know, and he is going to have to improve his game going forward. But you know, he's been a brilliant servant. In terms of Basuma coming in for Bentancur, I really hope Basuma can sit there, look what Bentancur brings, take that on board, and look to maybe implement that to some of his game as well. And Bergvall from Maddison, he's only 18. You know, a lot on this guy's shoulders. I do think, given a run of games, this guy will surprise a lot of people. But I think you know, in order for us to keep this run going, I do think that midfield three needs to stick together for a bit longer without us incurring injuries and stuff like that. So it's and Drew mentioned this before. I think it was Drew. I think it was about Maddison not going on international duty with England, keeping him hungry, which I think, you know, he's absolutely spot on. The longer he stays out of the England squad, I'm sorry, England fans, but the more benefit is for Tottenham Hotspur, because we're getting the best version of Maddison going forward. We've got this from Eddie MV Joker Davies, gifted out 5 channel memberships. Yeah. Jackie, whose Christmas morning is it?
Artist T finally gifted a membership. Big up to Artist T. He's been very good to us. And thank you so much, Edward, as well. Hopefully you're doing all right this Monday for you. Sadly, the weekend is probably over, but maybe you got some days off from work. And then also, sorry, I just lost the scroll there. Artist T was given one. Lewis Parks, Be Kind Mofos as well. Do Lie. And then Tall Corpuscle, interesting name, has also been gifted one from Edward. Thank you, Eddie. And also please take advantage of Eddie's generosity. He's been a good ambassador of the fan shows, good ambassador of the Big Up Network. He's been having chats with us, tactical, fan show wise. He's been a good good role model for the community, I think, Edward, because he speaks his mind, doesn't really care what people have to say, if they disagree with him or not. He's a very respectful, very interesting, and very funny guy. And like Edward, he's been a really good revelation to this community. So thank you for spreading the love, my friend.
Big up, Eddie, and everybody who's been the lucky recipient. Please thank him. And Eddie, next week is international duty. Following week is as well, but I probably won't have as much time because we're getting back into match week content. But next week I'll have a day or two. So, if you want to enter the David Harris School of FIFA, I have no problem help you along with your skills, my man. Just let me know. And he also says, man of my word, Sam, I did it. Oh, I don't know. I think him and Sam must have had some bet or something like that. But, if it is a bet that you're gifting out Irish Hoppers and memberships and you lose, keep playing games, my man, and, keep putting that bet on, I suppose. But big up, Eddie. Really appreciate the support, my man. And Sam, if you are watching, make sure your recognition. By the way, Sam pisses me off as a FIFA player. He's too good at the game. He knows all the buttons and everything else. He's way too good. So don't play Sam, everybody. He's too good. He's in Division 1. He's absolutely ridiculous. But no, big up Sam. I do love Sam. He's a great guy. Big up Eddie. Really appreciate the support, lad. Top notch. Sam hasn't come in and recognized your service. But anyway, guys, we are going to go on and we're going to talk about Brennan Johnson. Jose, I only think it's fair that I let Drew come in on this first, and then we'll go straight down to you. Because Drew, he's had phone calls with me about Brennan Johnson, and he's been proven right. So we're going to let him have his say on him, and we'll get straight down to Jose. But guys, while we keep moving, there's 400, or there was 400 in the house. We must be boring people. We're down 360 now. Keep smashing that like button. Keep smashing that subscribe button if you are new. And guys, anything that you want us to address, want us to talk about, please put it in the chat. We will bring it up. And if you want to support the channel, you can either grab yourself a membership, gift them to other people, or send in a super chat with your thoughts and your comments. But Drew, Brennan Johnson, the man of the hour right now. It's getting ridiculous. Mbappe, Brenaldo, Brenadonna, Beckham Johnson. But he scored 5 goals in 5 games for Tottenham in all competitions, as many as he did in his first 38 appearances for Tottenham. Has his confidence and composure in front of goal developed since joining Spurs? Or is it just a purple patch of form? Because if I remember correctly, it was this time last year he had a similar vein of form.
This time last year, he hit a similar vein of form, and that was carrying an injury and without having to have a preseason in a new system that he wasn't used to. So you could argue that it's a purple patch, but I think the kid's just finding his feet. I just felt there was something that people were missing a little bit with him, because as far as endeavour goes, he's never put a foot wrong on the football field in terms of trying to do what Ange wants him to do. And now with tweaks in the system, I think he's finding just a little bit more space. I think, the finishing midweek was pretty cultured, where he turned it back onto his weaker foot and, just slid it into the far post. I think he got a rough ride. I think people expect instant success sometimes. I think there's very much a TikTok swipe left, I don't like this guy mentality out there with some of the fan base. And I just think you have to give these things time. I mean, I say that, only time will tell. If he goes on a run of not producing now for 5 or 6 games, then it might just be one of those things where he's a flashy player that runs hot and cold. But I think in this system, I think if we continue to play the way that we're playing, I expect, I'm gonna put my head on the chopping block now. If he got 25 GA this year, I would not be surprised. I think if he can get 10 more than he did last year with us playing a few more games, and he betters that the next year, then I think we're onto something special.
I'd be very interested to see whether he can continue on. I think personally, when I look at him, before his first touch was a bit off, which meant when he was shooting, it was sort of affecting him, because sometimes his first touch was taken away from goal. When I look at it now, he's got that composure. That first touch is setting up to strike that ball properly. I'm just trying to work out, I think obviously it's confidence related, but I do see signs of improvement. But someone made a good comment in my pre-match build-up earlier on, that it was more so him getting on the ball, taking on players that people are frustrated with. And, he was arguing that we still haven't seen that side from him. Jose, what's your thoughts?
Um,
Oh, is it me or
Nope.
Jose?
No, I
Nope.
think Jose's lagging
I
out.
think it's
Oh, you're
Jose.
back now.
Here he is.
Jose, can you hear us?
am I back?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can hear you anyway. Go on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, this is about Brennan Johnson because
About Brennan Johnson, yeah.
yeah. So for me, with Brennan Johnson, right, and I've said this before with Brennan, what we've done is look, the price tag's not his fault, all right. At the end of the day, it is what
Yeah.
it is. But Postecoglou has looked for players that he sees have got the attributes and skill sets to pull off what he wants to do. Now, for me, Johnson at Forest was never a winger. For me, he's a 10. He played as a second striker, the second forward for a front man, and we've brought him in. And this is what I'm saying. Going back to last season, Postecoglou was trying to build his side and his squad last year. He had to use players as well last year that weren't going to be with him for the long run, and you were shoehorning and asking people to do different things. When you've got a more settled team and you've got, or you're coming towards, or you're coming nearer to what you want to see and what you need from players, it means that the players were always going to lift their game from that. Now, with Johnson, Johnson is, yeah, a wide player, man. Come on. He's an inside forward, always has been and always will be. And he's been asked to do something which was probably alien to him. And they say practice makes perfect. He's still young enough to learn. He's not one of these 30-odd-year-olds that are, that are never going to change their ways. He's still got time to develop and learn the game of football and find new ways of playing. And that's exactly what he's done. And, I think there is a coincidence because there is a coincidence about the social media stuff. Because when I grew up playing football and that, we had none of these sidetracks. The only thing you were sidetracked was a girl. A girl would sidetrack you, but always after a game, though. Never before a game. You'd get sidetracked after a game. So your eggs were all in the basket to play football. Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, for me, he's gone away from social media, and he's actually done himself a favour by doing that, by going away from social media. It's coincided with him going on the run that he's on at the moment. First couple of games he scored, I totally understood and got where he was coming from, where he didn't celebrate and stuff like that, because he felt hurt. He felt, the abuse was so much that he felt hurt, and he didn't want to celebrate. And I get that, and I get, because he's at the end of the day, he's a human
Come on,
being.
no, that's not towards the fan base. Him not celebrating, I don't think.
So you don't think he didn't celebrate because of the abuse he was getting? I think it was. You celebrate a goal in front of your fans, you tend to do that. He didn't celebrate for 2 games.
Yeah, the Coventry game, I think he didn't celebrate because we played crap, and he knows that we've got over the line, and it's not really a game you go sprinting the pitch and celebrating for, because the fans would abuse you for that. But when we played crap that game, I think he just read the route.
His celebrations have only come in the last 3 games.
The thing is, I
you could argue that the Coventry game was, he didn't want to have an Anthony-like moment where he, we got outplayed, and he even said in the post-match interview that we got outplayed, we got outfought, that we probably didn't even necessarily deserve the win. He more or less said that without saying it, and then he just had a little bit of respect or a little bit of class and didn't want to just, give it the big end to, to the Coventry fans. And then his second goal celebration, we already were a goal down. So he got an equalizer and, just shushed the Brentford fans and then, brought it back to the halfway line. So I think you might be overreading it. But it is your interpretation.
Because to me, if you go to a match, you've got 62,000 people in the stadium, right? So when I went to watch the Everton game, right, the fans weren't singing his name. You could feel it in the stadium when he was getting the ball. It was like, oh, hold on, and the fans weren't jumping up and down and clamouring for him when he was in the Everton game. However, since he started going on this run, and then he's got the fans all singing his name and all jumping and down, as a person, you can feel it. You only need, if you played in front of 200 people and their dog, right, and on the sidelines you were getting it against you, you're going to feed it, and that's only 200 people. If you've got 200 people on the sidelines giving you props and that, then you're going to feed it. It's going to make.
Yeah, but Jose, this is where I think we live in a culture where everyone goes blindly support these players when they're not playing well. You know, at the end of the day, fans are going to react to a player not playing well, and they're going to react differently to a player playing well. Like,
Yeah,
he can sit there and bemoan all he wants, fans not clapping him when he wasn't producing. But that he knows that comes with football. He's not stupid enough or naive to know that. He knows that comes with football. When you're doing well, you earn songs, which fans aren't just going to sit there and go, Johnson, 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 when he's missing sitters left, right, and centre. They're only going to do that when he scores goals. It's the nature of the game. And personally, I think we're giving some of these, the few mindless idiots in the fan base that went and sent him that sort of abuse, I think we're giving them far too much power, far too much, glowing them up to be, oh, that's why Johnson's doing all this. It's not. He just read the room against Coventry. And like Jack said, against Brentford, it was an equaliser. You know, we want to go and win games. It's nothing to do with them mindless idiots sending him abuse. He dealt with that. He left social media. You know, he dealt with that. I'm not looking at that. But, you know, to sit there and say that we should give these players and clap them when they're not performing is, I think, absolutely madness, because many fans are not going to do that.
But I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, as an individual and as a human, right, he can feel this, is what I'm saying. I wasn't saying it's deserved, not deserved. I'm saying as an individual, that's why I referenced 200 people in the dog and having 62,000 people in the stadium. You're going to feed it whether it's 200 or 62,000 people. And when you start getting someone, or you start getting the fans singing your name and being buoyant about you, it's going to lift your game up even more. So I'm not saying it was right or wrong. I'm just saying at the end of the day, when you've got the people singing your name and being all for you, it's going to elevate your game. Your game just doesn't. You'd like to think that people's games would elevate, you know, just naturally. But with the support, it elevates even more. I'm talking on a human level. I'm not talking about whether it's right or wrong and that players are get, you know, praised and not praised and all pansied about. I'm not talking about, if that's the way it sounded, it wasn't meant to be like that. I was just talking about being brought up, right, and being buoyant because you got your supporters from your team behind you, and it's improved the levels of his games. It's no coincidence that people now cheering him and clapping him on, and his levels have raised and raised. And you know, long may it continue.
Hopefully, and look, for me, where was that comment? The fresher, you know, he said he's I'm going to tell Sean that Irish bugger. And look, fair play to him, and that's the thing, you know. And look, I like to think I didn't go over the top with Brennan Johnson. I just, you know, I said the areas of the game where I think he was letting me down. But when it comes to Brennan Johnson and when it comes to any player that I criticise, all I want them to do is say, do you know what, Dave? They don't listen to me anyway, first of all, but I'd like to think they do. And if they, you know, I'd like them to go, do you know what, Dave, hold my beer, I'll go and show you. That's all I ever want, you know. And being a footballer, it's natural that criticism is going to come your way. And at the end of the day, it's all about mentality and how you respond to it. In years gone by, I've seen so many players not respond to it. You know, Brennan Johnson has responded to it so far, and long may it continue, because that's how you become a cult hero. That's how you become one of the fans' favorite, is by producing. So long may it continue with Brennan Johnson. He's on a hot streak right now. If he does go 10-10, I will sign that apology form. He's getting me close to signing that apology form anyway, for sure. And then Jason Green says,
would that be? Will you accept? Would you accept 10 like GA if it's like assists and not goals?
Yeah.
They have to be goals.
I'd accept it. Look, you know, if he can produce a lot more consistency over the course of this season than what he did last season, I'd have no problem sitting there and saying, do you know what, I got it wrong. Big up Jason Green on this one. Absolutely love the pre-match pump-ups. Well done, everyone. Great chat. My son Theo is officially a Spurs fan too. He chose to follow Daddy's team. Such a proud dad. Come on, you Spurs. Do you know what, Jason?
Come on, Theo.
I love that, because I was the same. I followed my dad, you know, in terms of supporting Tottenham. And look, being brutally honest, I don't understand the parents that give their kid a choice on what team to support. If you support a team, I think you should make them follow your team regardless. You know, I think any kid should want to follow the team their father does personally. That's the way I see it. I know not everyone sees it like that. I get it. But that's the way I see it. I think, first of all, when they're born, Spurs jersey, don't give the auntie or the uncle or anybody a chance to come in with a different kit and put it in front of them and tell them about the great club. So you're doing your job, Jason. Big up on that one, sir, and hopefully you're keeping well. And we've got this from Vendal Ross, member for 13 months. I'm 13. Where did the time go? Come on, you Spurs. You're only 13 years of age. How did you end up buying a membership then? Where have you been gifted? I don't know.
I think he's saying 13 years of, or 13 of 13,
13
you know,
months.
Irish Hotspur years, 13 Irish Hotspur
Oh,
years.
months. Sorry.
Yeah.
Jesus, you're gonna say that. Fuck me, I need to call in child
He's
labor.
13 years old in Irish Hotspur years, Dave. And,
I was going to say, if he's got a
Irish
bank card and
Hotspur
everything else,
child
he needs to
labour
ring
scandal.
labor. But big up, and
young
really
entrepreneur.
appreciate the support, and hopefully you're enjoying your time here, my man. Absolute legend. It flies by. Absolutely flies by. Absolute legend. You brought me a bit of smile to my face.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Really do appreciate the support, though, brother. And then we've got this from Les Known. He's become a YouTube member as well. You have been a huge. I presume you've probably upgraded. I think maybe because
Upgraded
you
to
put in a
elite.
comment earlier on. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lesser Known. Thank you very much. And we're going to try, like I said before, we're going to try to get back to the elite members in different ways. But if you wanted to schedule a Tell Me Your Spurs story, we would love to do that, especially over the international break. Not a bad time to do it while things slow down a little bit. So feel free to do that. Send us an email, send us a message, and tell us why you became a Spurs fan, and plenty of other little anecdotes about what makes you a Spurs fan and what you enjoy about it and all that good stuff. So
absolute legend.
Schedule that with us. Please.
Big up, Les.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it, my man. Thank you very, very much. And you want to do the Spurs story, just get in contact and we'll get it put together and we'll get it done with you. And Vendal says I'm 45. I appreciate it. And look, I'm a dumbass. I'm so dumb. I'm such a dumbass. You know, sometimes the easy things just go over here. You know, it's absolutely madness. But big up, Vendal. And then Ellie in Vegas is in. Timo really needs to step up today. Come on, you Spurs. Well, you know, it saves me actually bringing out that question. You know, who's going to start today, Mikey Moore or Timo Werner? Because I thought it would be Timo Werner anyway, but Jack has brought the lineups on screen. Jack, I'll give you the pleasure of reading the full lineup and the substitutions today.
We have Vicario in goals, Pedro Porro right back, Romero the El Capitan as the center back alongside Van de Ven, Udogie at left back. Then we have Bentancur, Madison, Kulusevski as the midfield, Brennan Johnson on the right, Solanke up top, and then our favorite Teemu Weenie out on the left. But then onto the bench, we have Fraser Forster as the bench option for goalkeepers. We have Spence, Dragishin, Archie Gray, Basuma, Sarr, Bergvall, Mikey Moore, and Lancashire as well. Mikey Moore and Lancashire making the bench once again. No Ben Davies on the bench, which is kind of interesting. So we've just gone for Dragishin as maybe the default center back to fill in, and then technically Archie Gray could as well. And we do have some good midfield choices. I think it's a pretty balanced bench. And of course, you know, this is at the moment Spurs' strongest starting 11, bar Sonny.
Same lineup from the United game, isn't it? That went out there and walloped them 3-0. So, you know, fair play on that one. And I thought that would be the lineup. I thought it was the right decision personally. You know, when you put on, I would argue, one of our best performances probably since Pochettino days, I think it's only right you go with that same 11 again and roll it out. But Jack, how are you feeling? Because I'm going to go to everybody and get their thoughts. Because, you know, like you mentioned earlier, is the battle of the high lines. You know, the Brighton manager, he does play a very, very similar style to Ange Postecoglou, high line, possession-based, look to go and score goals. Do you think that's the right team to take on this Brighton team in that sort of format? And if they do play that way, do you think strangely they're playing into our hands? Because traditionally we struggle against low blocks.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting to think about. Like, do we actually play better against teams that maybe do try to take the game to us, or do we play better now against teams that maybe do sit back against us that we can just suffocate and make life really difficult for? It's hard to know because there are only so many teams that even try to play this type of style against us, like maybe only Man City and perhaps like a Liverpool or maybe even a Chelsea would be teams that I could think of that would try to play toe-to-toe against us. Most teams just seem to concede that they're not going to be able to have more possession than us. They're going to struggle to outpress us. They're going to struggle to even try to mimic a similar style to us. So they basically just lock up shop, sit back, put every man behind the ball, and then look to hit us on the counter, because that has been, to a degree, a relatively successful type of strategy against Spurs. But, you know, recently it hasn't worked out as much for teams. I don't think it's going to play into our hands, because I think for the most part, we just have gotten so used to playing teams that sit back. I think it's just going to be a different test for us, and I'm curious to see how it will go. It'll be a very back and forth type of game. You'd expect that actually, you know, certain players who have a lot of time on the ball might not have nearly as much time on the ball. So I'm curious how they'll be able to handle that. You know, Vicario usually has ages to make a decision, sometimes in possession. Some of our center backs will have ages to make a decision on the ball, but maybe in this game they won't. You know, Van de Ven, Romero, they'll really have to have their wits about them. You could see us turning the ball a lot, turn the ball over a lot more times. You know, they're is more risk of a sloppy pass really hurting us. And I think it's just going to be an interesting test. I can't really say, though, if Brighton are going to be playing into our hands. The only thing maybe they could play into our hands with a little bit is if you give guys like Brennan Johnson a lot of space in behind, like he could hurt you because he has a lot of pace. Right now, he's in good finishing form as well. So if he does get played clean through, you'd expect it to go in the back of the net. And to a degree, as much as Timo Weenie hasn't been able to put away some of these one-on-ones, he does know how to get in behind, and he does know how to get some of these one-on-ones. So maybe it does probably suit Timo Werner a little bit more. Whereas if you tried to sit really deep and really low block, that would really hurt someone like Timo Werner and make life a lot harder for him.
Yeah.
So for some of the forwards, I think it plays into their hands. When it comes to the midfield and when it comes to the defense, I'm curious to see how they'll handle it because they're usually given a lot more time on the ball than probably this Brighton team will give us. And I expect the Brighton team to come out really fast, really hard. They'll try to make life difficult for us, and we'll see how we can handle that first 20 minutes.
I think, first 20 minutes, I think are going to be crucial. Are someone like Romero, Porro, will they be a bit sluggish after Thursday night in the pouring rain and stuff like that? Be interesting to see. But Jose, a lot of people disgruntled with the Werner selection, and they made it very clear before the lineup was announced tonight, all across social media since they witnessed Mikey Moore, which is a stark contrast because when I was sitting here saying these players should get opportunities, everyone was telling me they're too young and they don't want to see it. So what do you think of the selection of Werner today, and why do you think Postecoglou is sticking with Werner over Mikey Moore?
I think if I can, I think the gap between Werner and Moore now on a starting plane, I said, has narrowed, right?
Yeah.
So last week, although people wanted Mikey Moore in against Man U last week, for me, Werner was always going to start last week. I think after the performance that he's put in Europe on Thursday, I think that gap between Moore and Werner now has tightened, however you want to look at it. But it doesn't surprise me that Werner gets a start today. I looked upon this during the week when on Thursday, I agree with what you said about a winning team and a winning formula. But then on Thursday, I think the clue was already in there whereby he came off in the 66th minute and Mikey Moore played the whole 90. So I thought the clue was already in there. Then if you listen to the words that he had to say for our pre-match conference for today's game on Friday, you'd have to be an absolute tool to think that if all players are fit, that Werner wasn't going to start ahead of Mikey Moore today. But like I said, for me, because of the display put on Thursday, I think that gap it's making it harder and harder to say to say that Moore's now not an option. I just think that gap's now closed more. And who knows? I mean, today, I'll be frankly honest, right? Although we want to see Mikey Moore do well, look, if we're winning 3-0 at half time and Werner's put a shift in and he's got a goal and assist and stuff like that, I'd be the happiest man in the world for Werner as well. Because then you can take players off and then you can bring your youngsters on because you've already wrestled the game from the opponent. So, to me, it's no surprise at all that we're going in with this 11. But like I said, for me, I just think that the gap between Moore and Werner has tightened from his performance on Thursday.
Sean says gap is tightened more as well. Clear. We've got this from Aussie Spurs TV. Let's be honest, if we start this game like we did at Old Trafford, we will win 100%. And then we've got this from Jason Green, once again asking for a Werner goal. Let's hope it pays off and he gets this on the score sheet. Werner's better starting than impacting off the bench. Moore will get his chances. Drew, Edozie, there's a bit of, how fit is he heading into this game? How fit do you think he is? And also, on the Werner selection, do you agree with Jose that Postecoglou was right to select Timo Werner today, despite many fans not wanting to see it?
Mikey Moore was never going to start this game, and that's just purely down to his age and the minutes that he's got in his legs. There was absolutely no way on this earth, unless Werner was injured, that Mikey Moore was going to start. And if you're a logical football fan, you would understand why that's the case. That's not to say that Werner might come off at half time and Mikey Moore might play second half, but I just think he's too young to be given, 94 plus minutes and then a start in a Premier League match that we really need to win. So that's just my opinion on it. As far as Werner, I feel for the guy. I think this game is played in, inches, and we could be looking at a Werner that scored 3 and assisted 1 in the last 2 games if things had gone right for him. But, sadly, that's just not the case. We all know that Sonny would be starting if he was fit anyway. So we know that Werner is definitely second choice. And if it gets down, if it comes to a point in the season where Sonny is still starting, but there's more likelihood that Moore is going to come on instead of Werner, then I think it probably says more about how good it says more about how good Moore is than it says about how bad Timo is. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think if we come out starting like we did today, I don't think there's any reason why we can't put this to bed fairly early. Brighton have got some, a fair few players out. I think Johnson's going to be on the score sheet again. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think if Timo's going to start, Timo really does need to start coming up with a few more numbers. And depending on how bad Sonny's injury is, if we're going to start depending on Timo a little bit more, then yeah, he's going to have to start doing a little more. He gets into the right spots, but that last touch and that last, I don't know, when he gets into that final third, he's like Bambi on ice. So I don't know, man. We'll have to see how he goes.
You can tell not scoring is affecting his decision making. He's thinking way too much when he's getting these opportunities. Many people said against Man United to surround the keeper. Against Ferencváros, he went to do that. And he sort of, he absolutely bottled it. In fact, he should just listen to me. I said he should have went over the keeper, and he should have done that against Ferencváros as well. The
Ferencváros one, he should. Yeah, sorry, the Ferencváros one, he should have just stopped the ball. The keeper would have just gone past him, and he would have had an open net. And it's obviously easy for us to say that just looking at our monitor and seeing it. But yeah, you do wonder where his head's at sometimes, and you do wonder, I don't know, maybe he needs just a bit more. Maybe he needs to be staying for an hour or so after training and just doing low cross balls into the area and finishing practice. Because I don't know what it is, man. He seems to do everything else right up until that point, and then it just all goes to shit. So I don't know, man.
Yeah,
don't know.
No, look, he's a great source of frustration, but at the end of the day, like I've said, in years gone by, I sort of did start to hate some of the Spurs players, under Jose Mourinho Conte, because the constant excuses we were starting to get for performances and stuff like that. But one thing I'll give Timo Werner, he's not out there in the press making excuses for it. When he's put out there, he's a human professional. Yeah, he's put out there in front of not only the 60-odd thousand that's in the stadium, but the hundreds of thousands of Spurs fans that are tuning in worldwide. And, at times, it's tough to keep putting yourself out there when you're being selected, but even though you're being selected by the manager, because you're almost like, if I miss again today, I'm going to get killed again by the Spurs fan base and memed again and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he is going to have to start scoring to be able to alleviate that sort of pressure. But I do hope he does, because he's only human at the end. I don't hate Timo. I actually like like all of our Spurs squad right now, and I really do hope he can find that sort of form. I love this from Future Music. Timo is a hustler. He just pretends he's shit so he can get acres of space. I love that. But just quickly, in terms of the Timo Werner selection, does Mikey Moore deserve to start ahead of Timo Werner in terms of what he offers going forward? 1000% he does. But I think the one thing that everyone's missing is look how tired he looked coming off that pitch against Ferencváros. The big telltale sign for me, there was a ball put through to him on, I think it was around 78, 80 minutes. And if that was earlier on in the game, he would have went straight down in on goal with fresh legs and buried that. But he was caught up because he was tired. And you could see that in him for the last 10 minutes of that game. And I think with the only being 2.5 days turnaround from that game, with him only 7, I actually don't think it's the right solution to start him, because I do think there will be a bit of tiredness. I do think there'll be might be a little bit jaded, and with the game going to be such high intensity from the start, I think you're actually only going to hurt the kid by starting him, because, like I said, I think he will be jaded. I don't think he is going to be as sharp as what we've seen Thursday night because of the quick turnaround. You have to remember, this kid's not used to that sort of turnaround like the senior professionals are. So their body is conditioned.
He's got 17-year-old, he got 17-year-old lungs, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? 17-year-old stamina. Like, as good as he is, we really just can't be expecting that, he's just going to turn up week in, week out. I mean, there are anomalies like Rooney, and even he, I don't think, just got 90 minute after 90 minutes as soon as he came on on the scene. So yeah, we just got to give him a bit more time. He's got everything that he needs to be yeah.
And I actually think it'll benefit him coming off the bench today. He'll come on, he'll have some sort of impact, and people will still have the same conversations about him. Whereas if he started and he didn't go quite as well, people then wouldn't have to, they'd be hesitant about throwing him in the next game. I actually think, despite me clamoring to get a lot of these guys in the team, I actually think today it's the right decision to make, and I think it's actually going to help more in the long run, believe it or not. I know some people may disagree, but, people disagree with me, some being a striker last year, and he's back out on the left wing. So disagree with me all you want. Ange Postecoglou tells me what's going on. So, I have the inside scout. He doesn't, but I like to think he does. But guys, we're going to go around, get everybody's score prediction, and then we're going to end off. We're going to let Jack go and get some breakfast and a quick coffee before the watch along. So basically, guys, before we do, the link is still in the chat. It's pinned in the chat. It's also pinned in the description below for NordVPN. It is your last chance today to be able to grab NordVPN using our discount code at a cheaper price than what you would normally get it at using the code FLATCAP. You just click on the link that's in the description or pinned in the chat. It'll bring you over, type in FLATCAP and get your discount. And basically, for all those people out there that doesn't know what a VPN does, it basically allows you to go on the internet, change your location, and basically surf the internet for the best sports packages and whatever else you want, shopping, all available to you. Because when you do it from your browser, your normal browser, and you go there, it's well known it's an internet tactic that up the prices for certain locations, but you can get around that, and make it more cheaper for you by putting yourself actually in that location and getting a better deal. And do not worry about putting your bank details in, because NordVPN is so secure, like our backline right now. Really, really, really secure. No, they'll secure all your details. No problem on that. Also, you can have it on to up to 10 devices, which is absolutely brilliant. So not only you and your family, I know people might have the wife and the kids who want to watch Coronation Street, Emmerdale, Thomas the Tank Engine, Bear in the Big Blue House, whatever it may be. You can also get packages for them, which will help out the entire family. Nice and cheap as well. And the best thing is, because I know I've experienced this before and it used to drive me nuts. I'd be watching the game, I'd watch everything in the middle of the park, and as soon as a chance comes, it buffers. And they do that on purpose because they want you to buy, their packages. So to get around that, NordVPN, no buffering. Absolutely brilliant. So guys, I cannot give you any more benefits. I can't put it any more clearer for you. Coming up to Christmas, save yourself some money, get your NordVPN. Jack, anything you want to add before we end off?
No, I think that was well put, Dave. Please, everybody, if you're struggling to even watch Spurs games, grab yourself a VPN, because technically it's not always available every single Spurs game where you might be located. So you could switch to a different country, grab a streaming service from another country, and then that way you can guarantee you can watch Spurs games without having to go into any dodgy websites or anything like that, and have to spend the whole time doing that. Just make life easier on yourself. Grab a VPN. You'd also be helping out the channel a lot as well. And we're very appreciative of that. So thanks to NordVPN, and well done, Dave.
No, I appreciate that. And thank you, NordVPN, for the collaboration. It's been a real one. Hopefully, somewhere along the line we can continue this. But big yourself up, guys. And if you do grab it, you'll also be helping yourself or your boys, transparency, be able to keep this sponsorship longer. We're not too far away from guaranteeing it. So if you really want to help, feel free to grab one of them. And big up Smokehouse. Some people say I talk shit, so I appreciate that, my man. Thank you very much. We've got this from Vendal. Ross, he says, the lack of negativity today has been refreshing. Great show with awesome guests. GG, all come on, you Spurs. Look, I really appreciate that. And the thing is, look, I know myself sometimes. It's weird because some people say, oh, Dave, he's super positive, happy clapper. And then some people say on the other scale, oh, Dave's so negative. The reality is I'm just a fair weather fan. We win games, I'm absolutely happy. If we lose games, I'm angry. I'm just emotional. It's the way it is. And the thing is, I don't intentionally try to be negative, but when we are losing games, it's hard to pull out positives and talk about positives. And I hope people can sort of understand that. But yeah, it's been great. Times like this, no negativity. It's all positive. It's all about how great we are. We can put our arms around each other, sing Kumbaya, tell each other how we love each other. It's absolutely fantastic times, Vendal. And these are the times I love, and hopefully they are set to continue, my man. Big yourself up, and I'm really glad you enjoyed the show, despite me, taking about 30 years off your life. I really do appreciate it, Vendal. And then Shen Thomas well says, Dave, Jack just ordered my chicken, shish, and doner combo box Oh, you might be asleep before the game starts, lad. That'll put you to sleep, that. A large mixed doner with fresh naan bread, getting ready for the game. Do you know what? No better way to enjoy it, my man. Absolutely love that. I don't see chips. I think chips has to be a must with that, to be brutally honest with you. You know, break it up a little bit. Big yourself up, my man, and really appreciate the support. Who's the guy at the start that said he's done running? I mean, that's he's looking at that right now, and he's just like, oh, my God.
Stopped
You know,
his
he's
run.
probably, he's probably fainting right now seeing all the calories and stuff like that. But Shem, me and you love calories, my man, so big yourself up and absolutely love that. Great order. People, when we start the watch along, let us know what your choice of lunch or dinner is while you're watching the game. Jose, thank you very much for your time today, sir. Where can people find you? What's your score prediction?
People can find me over at El Cockerel. Steadily climbing.
Come on.
I'm looking to try and get past trying to get to 700. So I'm steadily climbing. So if anyone would like to come and support me over there, it would be much appreciated. My score for today. Now, if you guys watch me on these shows, you know me already. What am I looking for straight away? A clean sheet.
Love it.
So
love
I'm
clean
the
sheets.
I love myself a clean sheet. And so every time I'm going to call it, I'm always going to call it as many times as possible with a clean sheet. So for me, as I did on my predictions on Friday, I'm calling it as Brighton 0, Tottenham 2 is my prediction for today.
Nice.
I won't give you goal scorers because I don't care who scores as long as we win.
Well, do you know what? I think 99% of the fan base thinks Werner's going to score today. So, you know, let's wait and see. They might have got your goal scorers for you. You might be in for a brace. But guys, the link is in here, Jack. As always, very good to these people putting the link in the chat for you to get over and smash that subscribe button. Josie does a bit of everything over there. You know, very interactive. So make sure you get over there, join that community, interact with the guys, and you like good Spurs content. Get over there and smash that subscribe button, Jose. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, my man. Really do appreciate it. Drew, what's your score prediction today, sir?
I'm going to reverse what was last year. I'm going to go Brighton 2, Spurs 4. I think Solanke gets 2, and I think Brennan gets a goal and an assist.
Wow,
that's what I'm calling, and I'm probably going to be. It's probably going to be. It's going to be 1-0 in it.
Anytime Johnson scores lately, I fear for your health, Drew. You know, I think you might have an overdose of excitement.
I know. And I'll tell you what, just one last thing before I go, just because I found this interesting earlier on. I feel like the reason Brighton have done so well in the Premiership is in part to do with Tottenham Hotspur, because before Graham Potter, the 3 managers that they had were Peter Taylor, Gus Poyet, and Chris Hughton. So that's 3 former Spurs players that instilled a winning mentality down there. So they've got us to thank.
In there. They got Barber in there making
decisions. There we go.
Barber. Absolutely
there
spot
we go.
on.
So,
you know, Brighton might be top first.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely love that. Well, guys, big up Drew and Jose in the chat. I know you guys really enjoy their contributions. You can tell that by the engagement, you know, the viewers and stuff like that. So make sure you say thanks. As for myself and Jack, you'll find out our score prediction on the watch along. Also, we'll be talking about one of the great questions Jack put in there, but we didn't have time to get to today about, you know, how to break down this Brighton team in the build up to the game. Was it down to Cole Palmer's excellent, or is there something we can take away that we can exploit today?
Forgot about that question.
Yeah, it's a great question, Jack. I really wanted to get to it today, but we don't have time. But guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed the pre-match build-up. We'll see you back here for the watch-along at 4, maybe 4:02 p.m. We'll see you very soon. As always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
We never stop. Let's go.
Come on,
the boys.
Let's go.